First item of business is to review the agenda for additions or removal or adjustment. Anything, Valerie?
Nothing from me.
Anybody else? Alrighty, onward. Overview of Zoom meeting operations and procedures, rules for participation, mute your microphone, be recognized by the chair or someone else on the board. There should be old news by now. Public forum, opportunity for people who are not on the agenda to briefly speak on an item that's not on the agenda. Anyone? Alrighty. Department head roundtable. This is something new on the agenda to give department heads a chance to let us know what's going on in their neck of the woods and keep us up to date. Chief, would you, Bruce, would you like to go first?
Sure, thank you. I've been in contact with Senator Chris Bray about continuing our community talks. Hopefully we should make some progress on that relatively soon. He wanted to wait until after the legislative session ended and he could catch his breath. Got a few stats here. Wasn't quite sure what people would be interested in hearing, but I do want to say first, before I give some of the stats, that I can't thank Officer Josh Turner enough for the assistance he's been helping me with. Over the last year with COVID and staffing levels, we fell behind on quite a few things, and he's been extremely helpful in getting us caught up with that. Over the last 30 days, or approximately 30 days, we've responded or initiated 267 incidents. 3 of those were non-custodial arrest. We had 8 animal complaints, 7 related to dogs, 1 related to a bear. 4 motor vehicle crashes. We've had 81 traffic contacts. Those include either motor vehicle stops or parking. We've been receiving more complaints for speed now that the nicer weather is here and more people are out and about, especially on lower notch roads. So we're trying to increase some patrols in that area, but not take away from the rest of the town with the hours that we have. So that's kind of a brief overview.
Any questions?
Suggestions as we move forward. If there's other stats or something that you're interested in, I'd be more than happy to bring to the board.
Any questions of Bruce while we got him? I know he's not leaving, but.
No.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Brett.
Thanks, Bruce.
I apologize because I'm used to seeing you and Bruce in person, and I say Chief when I meet you. So, Brett, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Just want to provide one update to the board and to the community. Just like to formally recognize probationary firefighters Caleb Rockwood and Timothy O'Toole, who as of Saturday completed their requirements for their level 1 pro board certification as a firefighter for the town of Bristol. So that is very exciting. They have both been a tremendous asset to the department since coming on board last September. But as you can imagine, it's been a challenging year for everyone, particularly anyone enrolled in any type of class, as they've had to juggle schedules, continuously change locations, and do a lot of cramming sessions and preparations for the exams they just recently had. But they both persevered, completed their requirements. And again, I'm just super excited to have them both as part of our organization. Those are my updates. Thank you.
Great. I'd like to add that that's 200 plus hours of training that they have to receive in order to get that certification. So kudos to those guys. Thanks, Brett.
You got it.
Meredith.
All right. So lots of things are happening. Just to let you guys know, we're kicking off the Movies in the Park this Thursday, June 17th with Knives Out. We're hoping that The sun kind of goes down around 8-ish, so that'll be the time that we'll play the movie. We started a music series. We had one this last Sunday over at the pavilion at the rec field across from the hub. About 30 people joined that. The next music series is going to be Sunday, June 27th, and that kicks off at 4:00, and that's with the Atom and the Orbits. So that's pretty cool. Taylor's been really doing a great job promoting the music series for that over there, and we'll have about 4 more throughout the summer. We start off our camps next week, starting out with a 3-day bike camp, and then we go all the way through till August 20th. We do have a week where we are going to be working on the skate park, just doing some maintenance and safety upgrades for that area. And then the Holly Hall bell is outside the Holly Hall. It's on display. I've heard the bell chime a couple times, which is okay. I put a Q reader on there. So if you use your phone, you can use the Q reader app and it'll take you to the website and it'll give you the PDF of the history about the bell. So that's pretty cool. And then just, you know, a shout out to Taylor and Alex with the hub. The hub has just been happening. It's busy over there. Just different types of kids in a sense. So the skate park's happening. People are playing board games inside, outside. It's just really cool to see. So the rec department and the Hub Teen Center is just rocking.
Awesome. Thanks.
Can I give a shout out, Peeker, to, I think it was Taylor I heard on the radio with, oh God, the Middlebury station. She was talking about the Hub and the events going on. So, and she did a good job, but shout out to her for that.
Yeah, she's on there. She's on there on a regular basis. So yeah, it's always been good stuff when I've heard it. Thanks, Meredith.
You're welcome.
Eric?
We started roadside mowing last week. Just trying to catch up on some routine road maintenance stuff. Getting the ditching done for the grant. We got a bunch of equipment we gotta do servicing on this week, so that's about it. Just plugging along.
Paving.
Oh, we picked up our bale mulcher today. That came in, so that's back at the shop.
Your paving's done for the season?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, this year's budget money is done, yes, but I still have next year's, after July 1st, I still have that money to use, unless we're going to set it aside for a specific project.
Gotcha.
Eric, are you happy with Mountain Street and the other one that was done? I think it looks great.
Yeah, it came out pretty good. There's a couple little waves in it, but I think it actually came out pretty good overall.
Did you guys go out and do the edge finishing, or was that the contractor?
No, that was us.
It was good. That was nicely done.
Yeah, we got our controller pads back for our portable street lights, so we can use them up on Moncton Road to finish shouldering up there.
Joel?
Eric, I've had some people in the village ask if, when we're doing our, after new paving, could we use topsoil instead of gravel on the edge? Because, the winter plow just puts that right on their lawn all the time. And I understand why you do it out on the Moncton Road, out in the town, hills or ditches, but they were wondering if we could change that from gravel to topsoil on that foot edge you do. And I said I'd bring it up.
The only thing with doing that is if you do it with topsoil, you're going to have to do it all by hand. But what we do now, we go do it with the trucks. and we don't have to have the excavator on the pavement to spread it out. Or if you do a topsoil, you'll end up, without using the excavator, you'll end up having to shovel it all and do it all by hand, because the side dumps won't move the topsoil.
Okay.
And if you put topsoil back there and grass it back there, within a year, the edge of that pavement is going to be above the pavement, and you're going to start holding water on the edge of the road again.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Eric?
The sign.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Val.
I had a chat with Jill today, and she said that some of the valve covers on Mountain Street were sheared off or otherwise broken. And she was going to go take some pictures today, but haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, Mike came and there's at least one broken off up on Mountain Street. They tried to get the cover off to put the riser in it before they went through and paved, and they couldn't get the cover off, ended up breaking. So, and I don't know if that was the reasons the other ones broke or not. I don't know. But they couldn't get the covers out to put the risers in, so they ended up breaking at least one of them. I do know of.
Okay.
Eric, I just wanted to ask about the signs for the intersection, the no turn signs. I know that's on your list, but do you have a date for that yet?
Not right now. I'm hoping sometime in July.
Okay.
To get them up there.
I know it's a bigger thing. You got to get a crane out and all that kind of stuff. So
I got to get that, and I got to set it up with Bruce for traffic control when we put them up. And I'm on vacation this week, so I'm hoping in July.
Okay. Thanks.
Get them up.
Alrighty. That's all our department heads, isn't it? I didn't miss anybody. Good. First time around, so. All right, consent agenda. Appointment of Peter Grant as Bristol delegate and William Sayre as alternate delegate on the Addison County Regional Planning Commission for fiscal year 2022. Appointment of Peter Grant as delegate on the ACRPC Transportation Advisory Committee. Approval of Green Mountain Engineering Stony Hill Business Infrastructure Project Contract Amendment for Specialized Electrical Design, authorization or use of the Technology Reserve Fund to purchase a Dell Rugged Latitude laptop for the Public Works Department per the quote of 1939-36. Approval of Grand Fondue request fondue to use Route 116-17 through Bristol for Saturday, August 7th, 2021, multiple town bicycle event. Approval of Rooted Vermont request for Upper Meehan and Meehan Road for return to gravel multi-town bicycle event Sunday, August 1st, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. beginning in Richmond. Ratify contract with Addison County Regional Planning Commission for mapping services per Communities Caring for Canopy Grant 2020 Agreement 06130 UCF CFC 20-02. Ratify contract with Addison County Regional Planning Commission for assistance with the administration of the Clean Water Block Grant Design Implementation Block Grant 2019 CWF-IM-03 and grant authorization request for VTrans municipal road grants in aid program.
So move, Bigger.
Second.
Any discussion on any of those?
Yes.
That's how we do it. We make the motion when we second, and then we discuss.
That's exactly right, Ian.
So, Mal, I'm not sure if you're going to have the answer to this, and the Dell Latitude that they're purchasing. I was trying to read the specs, which are hard to read and understand, but does the road crew, and Eric, you can jump in, how do they actually use this laptop? Will they need the Wi-Fi? Do they connect to the town's network? Do they use it for inventory? I'm just trying to figure out if what they're getting is going to be what they can use.
Got an answer, Eric?
Yeah, the one I'm using right now has Windows 7 on it, and the security on it is no good anymore.
Okay.
So I mentioned that to Valerie, and she said, well, you might want to think about getting another one.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. My plan is it basically stays at the shop. I do emails with it, look up parts. My hope is to put on there a program that will do road inventory, so I can put on there, like Moncton Road was shimmed from this to this on this date year, and add the culvert inventory on it, so that way when we change culverts and update, I can go in and update it. That's what I'm hoping to do with it.
Do you
Go ahead, Peeker, sorry.
Do you have a desktop or just the laptop?
Right now it's just a laptop.
So Val, when they do stuff, when Eric does stuff like that with if he's doing an inventory or whatever, is that document program, whatever, local? I mean, I worry about if he starts creating something, there's no backup. Or is it kind of going to be a Google Doc that is going to be backed up through the town's stuff? I don't know.
I don't know. We haven't gotten into that level of detail. We just know that the laptop that he has needs to be replaced. And this is a model that we've all been gravitating to. It's the one I'm using. It's the one Sharon has. It's the one the police department is using.
Okay. So it's got the Wi-Fi capability and network capability if necessary.
Right.
Okay.
It might be more machine than the department needs, but it is certainly adaptable to the types of things that the department wants to move toward.
Yeah, I wasn't so worried about it being too much for them. I just wanted to make sure it had everything that they needed for what he was going to do.
And that's probably.
Yeah.
Just need somebody to know how to take the stuff off the one I got and put on.
I'll be right over.
Let's call Chris Morrissey Chris Morse or somebody come up and hook them up together.
Eric, if Peeker can't help you, I can probably run down and help. Trouble in trouble.
Yeah, you better just blow it up, Eric. The Grand Fondo stuff, when they say provide us with a certificate of insurance, they always put us as an additional insured. Is that correct, Val?
Yes.
Okay. Approved Rooted Vermont. The only thing I'm going to say is the last time that they had this, and I had a conversation, or we had a conversation afterwards, that the bikers were like driving in the middle of the road and not like moving over for cars that were coming up and down the dirt road. I mean, I know it's not a great road for bikers, but I think they just need to tell our people to at least, give them some leeway to get for the cars to get through.
Her narrative, she says that they do communicate that in terms of safe riding and obeying traffic laws, and they take that very seriously, according to her.
I know the last time we talked about this, they said it was just a fun ride, but when I talked to a couple of the bikers that I met on the road, they had said they were racing, and I'm like, well, as far as I know, it's not a race, but so
each one might approach it differently.
Yeah. Essex County Regional Planning, their contract, that's not part of what we pay for every year, right?
No, these will be grant funded expenses.
Okay.
Both of them.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Hey, we're on to the second page already. Beth, concerns about speeding and weight of trucks on Lower Notch Road. You're up, Beth. Unmute.
You're muted. Hopefully folks had a chance to review the outline that I prepared in the admin report.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
Peeker, you and Joel and I are in the same boat when it comes to technology. So I lost what I was using before, and now I'm just going to lean this up against something, and if you wouldn't mind just listening. But I first of all, I thank you for listening and taking the time to listen to my concern. My name is Beth Eckroos. I know some of you. It's nice to see your faces. I haven't seen you in a while. I've lived on the Lower Notch Road now in my home for 21 years, and I've had some concerns about this same thing over time. But since the fall, because of construction and new logging, there have been many more heavy trucks on a Class 4 road. And my house is near the road and built into the side of a hill. And when the large trucks, which include tandem log trucks, tractor trailers full of wood chips, cement trucks, large trucks hauling other larger equipment, go by my house, the house shakes and globes on the fans rattle, plates on the wall tingle, hurricane lamps rattle. And I'm having some concerns about nails coming through the back wall of the house. So last fall, I spoke with who must have been Eric. Eric, it's nice to finally meet you. And he said that there was nothing he could do because they didn't have a scale. Because I had looked up Bristol regs. And so he said to call the state police. So I called the state police, and they said they don't have a scale and they can't come in. And so I called the state, and the state said they can't come into towns unless the towns has asked for help to enforce excess weight permits. So there doesn't seem to be anyone who to be able to reinforce this reg if it was out of compliance. And roads are supposed to be posted in February. This one was not posted until about April. And when the road was posted, the trucks did not use it. But when the signs came down, they began to use it again. So obviously, my thought is that they knew they were in violation. And I realize the signs only have to be up a certain time, but I would assume that the regs continue throughout the year. When I called Val, she told me that one of the construction folks, Josh Masterson, whom I really care for, they didn't have permits at that time. And then Lathrop's is the people who are actually logging and have the big log trucks, and they did not have permits either at the last time I talked to the town clerk. The town clerk told me that if they were granted a permit, the trucks could be used in roads on all of the roads in Bristol, but that's not true because the permit has a place for approved roads and restricted roads or areas. So they don't have to use this 2.5 mile stretch of road. They can go down the Notch Road, which is paved, or around, which may be 3-4 miles out of their way. And according to this Title 23 of the Vermont state statutes, it says town roads are not to be used as shortcuts when safer alternatives exist. And this, if you haven't been down this road in a long time. It's not just a backwoods little road anymore. It has 30 houses along the road and 20 or more that live on the side road. So that's about 50 households that use that 2-mile road, dirt part of the road. So my concern is that, I guess my question is there too much weight on the class 4 roads? What's the shaking doing to the integrity of my home after 21 years? Who enforces the excess weight permits? And would the town be willing to consider to restrict large trucks on the Lower Notch Road or the 2-mile dirt road part of the Lower Notch Road?
Just a correction, it's a class 3 road, because class 4 roads we don't maintain.
I'm sorry.
But that's okay. And as far as we can't, to my knowledge, we can't stop trucks that are doing business on that road. So like if we were delivering gravel to your house, you can't stop that truck. I do believe we probably have the ability, if the board desires, to stop through trucks. So somebody coming from the upper notch going elsewhere, using that as a through route. But there again, if somebody is going to deliver to a house, to deliver to a certain address, and it's in that section of road, then I don't believe we have the power to stop them. And most of those trucks are running within their weight. I'm not going to say they're all running the weight that they're legally allowed to run, but I would guess that the majority of them are close to their legal weight. But that's as a trucker,
Okay. One thing I did want to say is that it says no vehicle, excluding farm vehicles, shall be driven or moved onto any street unless such vehicle is constructed or loaded so as to prevent its contents from dropping. And no vehicle, let's see, any, well, if someone was over peaker, who could reinforce that?
I don't believe that Bristol has anybody who's certified. I know that Bruce doesn't have scales, and I don't know that he wants to get into truck enforcement. Go ahead, Bruce. I don't want to speak for you.
No, we don't have scales, and we can request the state to assist us. The state DMV trucks with scales. We can make a request to them to step up some enforcement in that area. If we have a better idea of like times of day or days of the week, that would be good information to have.
It's work days, Monday through Friday. And I'm wondering, I was wondering if maybe the select board could be sure that people do have their permits. And let's see, but there is another way for them to go around. Yes, they do have a business along the road, but there is another way for them to go around that 2 miles area. So would it be possible for them to be asked to do that?
Or, I mean, I don't mean to be picky, but that would be like asking you to go around to get to your house just because you disturb somebody. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I know Masterson's now has their, I don't know if their business is up there, but I know they park all their trucks up there. Lathrop's or Johnson, whoever's logging, that's a short term. Are they done up there, Peaker? Do you know?
I have no idea.
No, they're not. They're still doing it. And so, but it's not just a nuisance to somebody. It's not just a nuisance. It's, I'm not complaining about the noise. I'm complaining about a physical something physical is being done to my property because of this. And I guess if it was your house and it was 8 to 10 times a day, would you be concerned? Think about that.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned. I'm just saying I'm trying to figure out how we can,
Right.
if we could force them to go a different route when they have, you know, their place of business is there.
But there is a different route, and it's not that far. You know, it's down the Notch Road, up 116 into Lathrop's, or I don't know where Josh would go. Josh's trucks would go. And it's not just Josh's vehicles, because Josh has so many other large vehicles like Carrera dump trucks or Carrera trucks full of cement and other large vehicles carrying large pieces of equipment. Now, when those posts were up, they found a different way to get there. I'm wondering if maybe we can just post the road again.
When the road postings are for 19,000 pounds during mud season, so that the roads don't get broke up. That's not, that's a state regulation. They're posted, they're legally, whether the signs are up or not, they're posted from, is it March 15th to April 15th, Eric? Or May 15th?
May 15th.
March
February 15th to May.
To May 15th.
Well, no. You can post them within that time period. They don't have to be posted until it requires them to be posted. So like this year here, I didn't post them up until, what was it, almost April, end of March. Because the roads didn't break up, they were still good. And then when they started to break up, that's when I put the signs out. But that's just a time frame that they can be posted to a lower weight limit.
The upper Notch Road or the Notch Road is one of the reasons they don't come up that way. I mean, I don't know that that's close to them, but it's a harder road for them to travel up, I'm assuming, with the trailers and the equipment, and to make that corner at the top.
It's a tough pull.
Yeah, it's a harder pull.
But whenever, if personally, if I have something on the upper notch, it all goes down 116 and up the Notch Road, because it's easier on my trucks. I don't know, like if Carrera's going by, they're going by because they're delivering concrete on that road. They're not going to go on that road to go into Bristol. They're coming from Middlebury, or they're not going to come out of Bristol Village and go that way. So I'm assuming they're working on that road. There has been a lot of building on that road, and I'm not trying to underscore your concern, Beth. I'm just giving you the reason that those trucks are on that road. Aside from,
can we, I know sometimes there are bridges that are posted can we post the road with what the regs are on that road and see if the truckers that were valid would use them and the others maybe not? Or do you think they would use them just the same because they don't think anybody would be watching?
Yeah.
We see this really hasn't been a problem until this year. And, I lived a long time. And
this year, Beth, Greg West he's put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6 houses. I know.
On his six house right now down there. So, I mean, you're getting a lot more concrete trucks going by and tandems going by with gravel.
But,
not to mention Lathrop's with their chips.
Yeah, Lathrop's with their chips and the tandem log trucks and the And sometimes the large equipment on the back of trailers that first there's a piece of large equipment pulling a piece of large equipment up to the Masterson property. And as I said, there is another way. And the state statute says town roads are not to be used as shortcuts when safer alternatives exist. And I don't know, I'm just saying, I think that would be a more, a safer way.
Well,
it might be, but I don't think Masterson's is going to say they're taking a shortcut.
Yeah, and the hill isn't necessarily safer than the gradual climb.
But it's safer for me as a taxpayer and my home, the integrity of my home. I don't know what it's doing, and my house is built into the side of the hill, so that's probably why I'm having a lot more difficulty than others. But how do we fix that? How can we solve this? How can I solve it? You solve it? Is there a way?
Yeah, you're extremely close to the road. I do agree.
Mm-hmm. There are other houses that are as close as I am, but they aren't built into the road. And I haven't spoken with them because sometimes people feel uncomfortable about speaking to the select board. And I thought if they were concerned enough, they would speak themselves. So I didn't approach other people, but I just wanted to express my concerns and hope for a way to possibly solve something. I don't know. But if you wouldn't mind discussing that further, maybe without me present or something, and see if there is something that you might be able to do. I don't know. But thank you. Thank you all for listening. And
Peeker Darla has her hand up.
Yeah, Darla.
So I'm just wondering, Beth, I heard you ask a question and I don't know if it got answered. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were asking, can the road be posted at other times other than just mud season? Was that the request you had?
Yes, I wanted to know if maybe you could post the weights and according to the axles or whatever. And then I think that it might make a difference. Mm-hmm. Because when it was posted during mud season, those large trucks didn't use it. So maybe those trucks that could be in violation or might be in violation would use the alternative way. Or I don't know how we could tell them an alternative way. But
I mean, one of the reasons they may not have used it during the mud season was because they held off doing whatever they were doing because they knew the trucks couldn't get up there then. And that's why they then probably slammed in as soon as it was open.
Well, not only that, Michelle, but when you post your roads, your weights are a lot lower than they are right now. Like a tandem truck right now, what is it, Peeker? 60,000 right now. Whereas when it's posted, a tandem truck is 19,000 just for that time period.
So Eric,
legally, as long as they got their permit, they can run 66,000 pounds on that road.
So there's a season to when the road can be posted. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. But Eric, can it be posted year round? I know there are some bridges that are posted. You can't.
There's bridges that are, but that's because of the structural condition of the bridge warrants the weight to be lower than what it would normally be. Normally, a bridge would allow, for example, 90,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds to go across it, mm-hmm. but because of the structural integrity of the bridge, being that it's weakened, they opt to lower the weight limit down so they don't ruin the bridge. Mm-hmm. And with the lower notch road, the only time, in my opinion, the integrity gets lowered is when mud season comes, so we don't break it up. So normal cars and vehicles can get home. And that's why we post it. So that way the trucks don't ruin them, make 2-foot ruts, and then like you or your neighbors or whoever can get home.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have the ability to put special conditions on our overweight permits, Beth. We do have that ability. And but there again, the issue is if somebody has a job on that road or somebody lives on that road, I don't know how we address that.
But can you?
We can ask, but we can put restrictions on the permit that road's not to be used if you're coming out of the upper notch, for instance. So the log trucks coming out of the upper notch would have to go down the notch road to 116. That's something we can do. I believe if we put a lower weight limit on the road, we lose our state aid, but I don't know if we get any state aid for class 3 roads. So
Okay.
I
Thank you for thinking out. All of you, thank you for thinking outside the box. I'm wondering. I know that Josh's property is on the lower notch road, and it's right where the pavement begins. The other option would be to pave the road. And would that make a difference? Do you think that would make any difference at all in that?
We've been petitioned to pave the road, and we've had people go both ways that I bought on a dirt road to live on a dirt road, and we've had people worried about the speed if we pave it. Right now, we're not in a financial position where we can pave it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can ask Josh if he would mind going the other way. I mean, that's something we can do.
It's not really Josh's truck speaker, though. I mean, some of it are Josh's trucks, but some of it are because of his business. Like he has other businesses that are bringing in larger trucks and things like that. So because of his nature of his business, he has so many different people that he deals with that have large equipment like that he needs, that it's not Josh per se and his vehicles that are the ones that I'm concerned about. Because I'm retired now, and I'm home, and I do see the trucks that go back and forth, and that's how I know that it was much more prevalent than it has been in the past. And but if you could do something about the log trucks, that would help a little bit. But I thank you all for listening and thinking with me, thinking outside the box. And
that's probably not going to happen until issuance of permits next year. It's a stipulation we would have to put in the permit if the board chooses to go that route.
They may or may not have a permit, Beaker, because the last time I called was about a week and a half ago, and they didn't have permits, the Lathrop. So I don't know if they do now or not. But if they don't,
Beaker Joel has something to say too.
Joel.
First of all, I know you do live right on the road there, and trust me, over here at 65 Pine Street, I know what you're talking about with living on the road. And the larger the trucks, I didn't ever hear you say that the large trucks were speeding. They were just overweight.
Well, they do. They are speeding, but I didn't know.
35 up through there in a truck. That truck is really moving at 35, and it seems like it's going 50. And I know my neighbor across the road used to complain when there's certain company used to deliver landfill cover every Saturday. And he'd say, look at them. And then Kevin Gibbs, our old police chief, would radar it. And he said, he's doing 27, 28, 25. They do look faster. I used to get people say, you're speeding down Pine Street with your school bus. I said, I'm doing 27 miles an hour. The bigger the truck, the faster it seems it's going, number one. And also I heard you just say that, I remember this has happened a lot for the years, but now that you're retired and you're home more, now you notice it more.
Well, actually, I was home in the summers anyhow for the past 42 years or whatever. But
I mean, I think maybe a letter from the town to the appropriate trucking companies to say, the shortest distance to 116, we would very appreciate to be good neighbors. And, if you're coming out of the Upper Notch, please go to 116 to get off the Lower Notch Road. And I would be going for the Masterson's new equipment yard.
Yeah.
So,
that would be wonderful.
You can start with a letter, maybe just say, most of them get their permits, and they're not that much. I think they're $10, Peaker, per permit?
I know, I saw that.
And so, yeah, they'd rather pay that $10 than pay that fine of a couple of $300 when they're over.
Oh, it's way worse than that.
And it may be worse than that. Yes. I think just a letter saying, if you've got doing business at your location, please take the shortest route to 160.
I thank you. That would be a great start. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Beth.
Good night.
All right. Are we ready to move on? Any further discussion on that at the moment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Planning Commission request for select board direction. Kevin, you are up.
Good evening. So the select board, or not the select board, the Planning Commission has finished up the town plan. Matter of fact, the Regional Planning Commission is working on doing their process, which will involve a hearing in July. So that's all moving along. As part of the planning process and the recent reg changes for the URDs, the Planning Commission is now more of a planning process as opposed to a quasi-judicial / planning function. So we are starting to look at the implementation plan on the town plan, which you're aware of because we've distributed some draft forms of tasks and assigned tasks and whatnot, but we've also started thinking about and had some discussions about the direction we should be going. We've got some fairly new members, we've got new officers, if you will, and so we're kind of in a state of flux, and we'd like to talk a little bit to the select board and gather some thoughts and their feelings about some tactical things as well as some visionary things, and understand what, if any, holes there might be in the current town plan as has been approved that we should be thinking about as we start this journey down the road, which is an 8-year journey, quite honestly, because the town plan is due for renewal in 8 years. So whatever we decide in the short term is not like what's going to necessarily happen. It will evolve. But we'd like to understand the general opinion of the current town plan is approved with the select board, and if there's any things that you've all been thinking, well, maybe we should consider that, think about that or revisit this, or as well as to start thinking about some, if there's some visionary things that are departures from what we've traditionally worked on as far as the town plan is concerned. And then we've also talked about relationships as well, and thinking about if we should be really looking for direction from the select board, even though we're all appointed at the pleasure of the select board, or would be the expectation from the select board be more of an independent body with some limited oversight through our contact, which I believe right now is Michelle, and continue to operate as a semi-autonomous board, or do we want to, or as a select board, have some desire to have more contact or input, if you will, over the process over the next several years. So I guess if any of that makes sense, that's kind of what we've been thinking about and where we're thinking about going. So I guess I'd be interested, hopefully I'm not blindsiding anybody, about thinking of, if you want to share some thoughts about the current plan, what you are happy with within it, and what maybe needs to be polished or changed or modified.
The only thing I find is I hear of people being frustrated because there's something that's going on in their general area and they want to do something along the same lines and it's not allowed. And I would think that, if there's an area where something seems to be happening, that something of a like nature could go in without, and I don't know how I don't know how you go about doing that, Kevin. I just, I know that there are places where people have wanted to do certain things and it's not allowed, and it seems like it fits what's already there, I guess is what I want to say.
So that would be more of a zoning thing, right?
Probably more. Well, isn't zoning based off of the plan?
It is. It is.
Yeah, and one of the Planning Commission's tasks is to propose amendments to the zoning regulations to implement the town plan, or if there are gaps or other areas that are planned to be improved. Now the Planning Commission has time to devote to those kinds of things.
I mean, I as a select board member, I don't feel that my personal thoughts have a place on the Planning Commission. If I wanted to be a planner, I would think that that's where I should devote my time. I think our role in town business is different than planning. That's my personal opinion. That doesn't mean I don't have an opinion on planning.
One area where there is a real overlap is capital planning, and the state statute contemplates that there is a close relationship between the Planning Commission and the Select Board in the development and adoption of the capital plan for infrastructure, not just vehicles, but just infrastructure improvements or modifications, depending on the vision and the goals of the town.
That was the thought that I just had. Is there a way to align priorities for the two groups so that we're both working in the same direction and not in silos from each other?
Ian's pondering something there. Come on, Ian.
Well, looking at the list that you sent, Kevin, it's great. I mean, it's fantastic to sort of see it broken out into the different areas. And yes, I agree that there's that overlap. And I sort of see the Planning Commission, now that you have this new not ability, but more time to devote. I see the Planning Commission as sort of like at the top of the chain, sort of working with all the other groups, Select Board, Energy Committee, Town Administrator, Zoning Administrator, to sort of to make sure that we are on track. I mean, I think that's part of what the Planning Commission should be doing, that we are, if we're setting this town plan and we have the 8 years to do it before we start revising, that we're moving on these things. And looking at the Select Board list that you sent, some of the things we are working on, but there's a lot that we haven't even started yet, or we need to begin moving towards them. So I would see, as Peter said, I see less of myself putting my own particular thoughts into it, and then sort of relying on the Planning Commission as sort of this guiding hand over all the departments, but having a good sort of symbiotic relationship with us, sort of work with us and go as we go through there.
Another area that comes to my mind, a number of things have been brought to the Select Board's attention where people have asked for studies or policy changes. And what comes to mind is speed control and slowing traffic on the residential streets, the speed limit, lowering the speed limit, and other methods for managing vehicles in the residential neighborhoods. And maybe that's an area if the Planning Commission wanted to undertake some studies and make recommendations to the select board. The Planning Commission has a budget, and the Planning Commission also has access to grant funding, planning grant funds that the town can help secure and administer. Oh, there was another thought and it just slipped out. But anyway, so that's an idea. Oh, the other thought was when the Firehouse Apartments discussion was going on a few months ago, one of the options to increase the density in that area was like a transfer of development rights or a density bonus provision being added to the zoning regs. One possible activity for the Planning Commission, if that's something that planning commissioners and others think is a worthwhile idea to pursue for future projects, take a look at that as a tool. And is that something that would be appropriate for Bristol? And if so, in what locations?
Okay. So we talked about, the other thing I was going to talk about was a little bit about the working structure with the other groups, but you've already touched upon that. And then I think, to me, that's a lot of the tactical stuff that we should be considering, are considering. As we develop the plan start to develop the plan over the next planning period, if you will, there's some different, if you start looking at the aspects of the plan itself, when you start talking about housing and education and childcare activities and that sort of thing, the part you brought up, Val, about the density bonus fits right into that. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about affordable housing, housing, available housing and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure with respect to that, if this select board has any visions or opinions of where we might go. I think with the Planning Commission itself has talked about housing through the process of developing the town plan, and I believe as we go forward, that'll continue to be a discussion.
I mean, part of it too is sort of hopefully the Planning Commission working and towards finding opportunities, especially on the housing front. The select board can only do so much in terms of, I see the select board as more of like, working with private developers and giving the approval, but there's only so much we can get up to, in terms of what we're actually able to do as the town. The Planning Commission I see as sort of the vision, bringing the vision to the town and to the select board and to the other departments in the form of the town plan to help move us in the right direction. And so with the housing, I would expect the Planning Commission to sort of to look at those options and to see what's actually possible and to sort of hopefully recognize what might be needed in the next 8 years or 10 years.
Anybody else? So the couple that would be commercial, retail, industrial spaces as well. Where have we been? Where we're going? Does the select board have any opinions on what we should be trying to drive or encourage from that point of view?
I don't know, but I know that a lot of housing's no good if you don't have business to support it. So, there is a delicate balance there. And like I said, I'm not a planner in that aspect. I just know that if you get all one and none of the other, that it really hurts your tax base.
But we're certainly limited on both, what you
right.
can put around. So.
Right. And it might, again, similar to the housing, it might be nice to see the Planning Commission, study that in terms of what's available. I mean, we obviously have new development happening at Stony Hill, which has taken quite a number of decades to sort of come to fruition. But it'd be nice to recognize the other areas. You know, when the select board was sort of in our first discussions with the new Department of Public Works building, you know, we're looking at the maps and just seeing like, okay, if it's not in this location because let's say the ground that it's sitting on isn't going to be appropriate, where can we put it? And so I think the same thing in terms of, you know, light industrial, even large industrial, where are our options in Bristol? You know, there's not a tremendous amount in the village. As you start to go out further, it opens it up, you know, down where a Hillside Precision, where they're, you know, the land that they purchased in that area, you know, there's good developing there. So it might be sort of nice to sort of recognize and look around and just, you know, literally look at the maps and just see the kind of land that businesses might be interested in sitting on. And obviously working with that in terms of what the zoning regulations are too for those pieces of land.
Well, and also recognizing the fact that we have a lot of farmland that is currently being used. Right. So you certainly don't want to take too much of that away from them either. Right,
of course. But as we grow, you know, if our housing is growing in terms of developments on North Street, developments over by the firehouse, and hopefully developments down on Lovers Lane, that, as Peter said, we need to sort of, can the businesses come here to sort of accommodate the people that might be moving to this town?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the businesses that can be integrated into the area where there's housing, stuff that's going to, you know, and obviously you don't want a meat processing plant in the middle of a residential area, but there are businesses that could be in the middle of a residential area that would fit in, like the Precision Shop down there. That would fit most anywhere. You know, in most any neighborhood, that style building, that style manufacturing doesn't really produce a lot of noise, doesn't produce a lot of traffic. It's a good, clean business. And I know there are others out there, you know, like the ones going in on Stony Hill. So, you know, they can be put in a residential area. You know, a sawmill, obviously, you wouldn't want in the middle of downtown Bristol. But there are things that will fit, like businesses, stuff that's already going on that could be expanded on in those areas. But I don't know, you know, there again, I'm not that up on it to know what fits with what, and not my cup of tea.
Part of it we'll see, I think, in the next few years when that first business goes in, David's business at Stony Hill, what that attracts in terms of the other two buildings and how quickly those are built and what businesses come to Bristol. And that will sort of hopefully, you know, give us a sort of an idea of the direction that businesses, you know, coming to town might want to take. Another thing I was thinking, Kevin, and you're sort of involved on the other side of this is sort of what's happening with MAUSD and the discussions there. You know, that's still, you know, being hotly debated in terms of the decision and the direction they might go. But I think that's something where the Planning Commission should be involved as well. I mean, and it's in your list in terms of being involved with the school board and just to see what's happening there. But because there are these sort of major decisions that are going to be made in the next few years, and, you know, depending on the outcome, buildings might open up, you know, which could present itself opportunities. And I know that the school is looking at that in terms of, as an option is private, renting to private developers or private businesses an option, but it's something that I think that we should all be looking at. And I think Planning Commission, I think, is in a good position to sort of do that, to imagine like, okay, if these things do change in the next few years, what are the positives that can come of this?
Right. When I do think of businesses in Bristol and what that might look like, I think of the other communities. I know Middlebury offers a lot of incentives to businesses. Would it be the Planning Commission's role to make recommendations to what those incentives might look like?
Another thought comes to my mind that I know during the town plan update process, the pandemic really put a squash on the Planning Commission's public outreach intentions. It really truncated there was a pretty ambitious plan and it could not be executed. Now that things are going back to normal, there might be opportunities to engage the community in one or more visioning exercises, do some public outreach, and get the community's pulse on different topics.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say one other thing is just in terms of the federal money coming in to the town as well. Like I think along with the town being involved in that in terms of the select board, it might be worthwhile for the planning commission to sort of look through those documents when we get the final details to sort of figure out what will align with what we'd like to do in the town plan and what monies are available to us.
Jolie, I see your hand go up.
Yeah, one of the things that I would, since I've been on the board, and Peter, you've been on a lot longer than I have, was, we've had in the years I've been here, I think at least 3 times residents from Broadview Estate have been in, and when could that be taken over as a town road, and, and other developments. And I'd like to see, and, I voted against the thing last week. There was 4 houses on one road. There's no turnaround. And I'd like to see what it would cost these developers. And I think of when I grew up on North Street and we looked and saw the farm of Devenant's Farm, and it was all fields there. And now it's Meadow Lane and Lower Meadow Lane. And those get turnarounds, and those are village streets now. And they get plowed by the town. And I just wondered the cost to a developer to improve those new developments so they become a village street, like the one behind the fire station is going to become a village street or a town street. And it goes on. Not that I'm looking for us to take over all these things, but I'm not sure as a board and a planning commission, we're doing the 32 residents in Broadview or Terry Thomas Drive or all those previous people who built those. Are we doing those new owners of those property any justice by, for they're paying a CAM fee the rest of their life to have the road Lower's Lane, to have it plowed or sanded or salted or graveled in the spring and graded in the fall and the summer. If those were up to town standards, would in the long run save those property owners money. I mean, we had Heath Road in how many times, Peter? 3 times since you've been on the board. Take that over. Couldn't take that over. That's an awful steep road and never was put the specs. But I just was wondering what the outcome would be if it's in the long run, in the first run, the developer's got to pay more. There's no doubt about it, make that road to spec. But in the long run, I think they may get more for their lot, but their property owners never will have to worry about a CAM fee for all their development. If there's just a thought.
I think part of that is all in the setup of that development. A lot of these, like you said, a lot of them are looking to get in as reasonable as they can, and they're not going to build a road to road standards because they have no intentions of paving it. And
I'm not sure it needs to be paved or
no, but it needs to be, like the Notch Road, which we're the Lower Notch Road, which we were talking about earlier, is not, and I know you've wanted to pave that and work on it a little at a time, but that's not in a position where it's ready to be paved. No. And that's a town road,
think of Lower's Lane or Broadview that, when they first built it, with a little more work that might have been with the guardrails and stuff, it might have been to our standards, and then never have to pay a $400 or $500 per lot per year for maintenance on that again.
So, but I think 2 things I'm going to say that. First of all, they may not have paid $400, but their taxes may go up if it were adding additional maintenance. But the second thing is that's a bigger thing with the state, because the state issues the permits that says what they have to do and what they can't do. So really, to me, the town doesn't control that. If they've got that big of a development, the state is the one that puts in the requirements for what needs to be put in. Like they were supposed to put in a turnaround up where I am. They never did that, and the state didn't come in and do anything about it.
They probably don't know about it.
Well, they did. But by then it was too late because they had, just other situations where everything was basically grandfathered in and permitted. But that, to me, that's a state issue. They should be putting in more requirements for that to make it, up to snuff. And then they need the personnel to be able to come in and, check and make sure it's done right, which they'll never have.
Does that give you enough to go on, Kevin?
Yeah, I have one more, would be treatment and use of natural resources. We have, and a lot of the focus on the last town plan was driven by, new state regulations on identifying natural resources, how they're used. And that goes along with lumbering, recreation, all sorts of things that you can tie to that whole topic.
Kevin, a follow-up on that is I sat in a meeting last Wednesday for 2 hours on this 3-acre impervious soil new law. Is that in any kind of or that's all ANR, natural resources from the state? Planning Commission going to stay right away from that?
So Planning Commission has no control over that being a state regulation, but there's a lot of where the town does have latitude is identifying critical habitats, stormwater flood resilience, if you will, stormwater control, where parks are, where trails are, conservation lands, what can, going back to, lumber, or the whole industry around forestry, so, and there's a lot of conservation land or protected or not protected, but there's like a lot of national forests. There's a lot of conservation land in Bristol. And there's also, there's a lot to consider there with, the growing concerns about development versus open space and, that sort of thing.
One more thing, I'm aware that if the town of Bristol at some point was to adopt such tools as like a fluvial erosion hazard areas related to flood resiliency, that it would increase, that Bristol would probably qualify to get the higher rate of reimbursement through the I forget the acronym for the fund, but it's the amount that the state kicks in during an emergency. The FEMA pays 5%, and the state pays 7.5% or 12.5%. But anyway, the rate of reimbursement is increased if the town has additional flood protection measures in place. So that might be something to look into. And it might be a challenging topic for some riparian landowners, but in the long term, in the long view, it would be an important step.
That has actually been discussed as part of the last town plan, and there are some significant property owners that have businesses and things like that along some of those areas that would be potentially impacted as well. So it's a very, very sensitive issue.
The boundaries can be uniquely located depending on the circumstances. For example, in Waitsfield, the village is excluded. I mean, it's all built up. So that's not in the fluvial erosion hazard area, or there are certain exemptions or carve outs or whatever how you want to call it. But it can be a tailored tool.
Val, are you thinking that I think of every month or two, I look at the river down there just before the new bridge at Sycamore Park, I'm wondering someday the river's going to be, we're going to put another bridge in because the river's going to be the other south of the bridge where it keeps cutting that in. And I can remember as a kid, my grandfather lived in that trailer on that corner and used to fish right along his bank. And now that river is 200-300 feet towards the east. And is that what you were getting at? Why flood or area?
Planning ahead for how the river is likely to move over time and structuring a district, an overlay district in a fluvial erosion hazard area so that future development is either restricted, prohibited, or has to meet certain criteria in order to locate there in the likely event that the river is ultimately could cause property damage. So it's intended to protect private property and public property.
I know there was a study done years ago and on that whole corridor down through from A. Johnson Lumber down through, and there's a map of the fluvial floodplain that exists. I don't know if Green Mountain Engineering did it or who did it, but I know there is a map that exists of that whole area down through there and what's in that plain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there, as I mentioned, the Planning Commission has a budget, has some financial resources to hire, if necessary, expertise on these things or pay for additional assistance from the Regional Planning Commission to navigate that whole process and see how far, I mean, if it's something you're inclined to do. But in those communities that have gone that extra step, there's a financial benefit to the town and protection for the property owners.
Okay, so I guess the last thing is I'd like to loop around a little bit to the earlier discussion about interaction between the Planning Commission and the Select Board. I'm not in I haven't devised a formal way of doing that yet. Like I said earlier, I know that Michelle's our point of contact. So I'm not, so I guess I would like some parting thoughts on what the vision or what the thought is for the Select Board on how to develop or maintain or establish the type of communication link that you would like to see.
And there's the silence.
Well, no, I was just trying to think the best way to do that. I mean, if there's something, Kevin, that the Planning Commission wants to get to the Select Board, you know, I can either come and meet with the Select Board and we can have a discussion and I can bring it to them, or we can have you just come, you know, somebody from the Planning Commission come to one of our meetings and just set it up. I mean, I think it's in some respects, that's the clearer route because then you get everybody's input. But if it's not something that needs the whole Select Board opinion, I guess, or thoughts, then I'll just come and meet with I can come meet with the Planning Commission and then speak to the Select Board about whatever we need to talk about and get back to you guys.
Yeah, or you could also do quarterly updates. You know, we're now having department heads in terms of update us at various Select Board meetings, the same kind of thing. You just, because, you know, you're meeting probably once a month now instead of the twice a month as before, you know, maybe every quarter that the Planning Commission, you know, comes and updates the Select Board, you know, and we'll be knowing what's going on, but it just is an official thing in terms of those updates.
Yeah. Okay. So would that be something that you would just tickle with the agenda, or would we be, or should I be looking to establish that on a calendar basis?
I would think we could set it up so that it was set so that you knew it was coming rather than have to guess and you know, if you are at a point where you don't feel there's anything significant, then you can skip it, but at least it would be scheduled.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I have, Michelle, informally just copied you on certain things. And I can continue, or I will continue to do that. And
that works
as well. So
you want to aim for December for the next quarterly check-in?
Sure.
And then if you need something before that, you can let us know.
Yep,
Yeah.
great.
That would be December 13th.
You say December?
December 13th.
Okay, that's more than a quarter, I guess. That's semi-annual.
2 quarters.
Oh, 2 quarters? Oh, true.
Maybe more like September, I think.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
You're right.
September, December, and then we only got 2 more left, and we got the year covered.
So September 13th then.
They're both 13th, huh?
Yeah.
At least they're not Friday.
In some cultures, Friday the 13th is good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks so much for your time. This has been really helpful.
Thank you, and hopefully you got something. I know you were writing the whole time, so hopefully you got something you can use.
Well, you guys did a good job with
you were doodling.
Well, it's a good job with what you guys have created so far. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks.
Especially during a challenging time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your work, Kevin.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So, it's interesting with all this Zoom stuff. There's pluses and there's minuses to it.
Absolutely.
Already.
And we'll be talking about that more on the upcoming agenda item tonight.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Have a good evening.
You too.
Water Commission, new water service connection application for 130 North Street. Gregory and
Make a motion to approve. Make a motion to approve the connection.
Did you happen to see the conditions I proposed in the report?
With the conditions that were proposed.
I thought you
Yes,
said
I
that
did.
the first time.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Just, Valerie, I apologize. I didn't get to that section there, but I know pretty well. That's coming off North Street, not off the line cutting from North Street to Meadow Lane, correct?
That's correct. Off the east side of North Street,
On the east
copper
side.
line.
Okay. Yep.
So
So
this
with
is
our-
just
Sorry, go on, Michelle.
this is just one connection for, or are they going to have 2 connection because it's a 2 unit?
One connection.
That's what I was going to ask Michelle, because it is it's going to be 2 dwellings there.
Two. It's not 2 separate dwellings. One dwelling, but with 2 apartments.
It's
so
a
to speak.
duplex.
Yeah, duplex. So wouldn't they need 2 connections?
No.
2 meters.
They'll have 1 meter. And Jill, you got any input? I see
So
you.
what he wants to do is a 1-inch service and then possibly 2 meters. And that way, if there happens to be a water use issue in one of the units, he would know which one he had the issue at.
So what happens? Does that one connection then tee off?
I'm not
For
exactly
each-
sure how they plumb it in the house. It would the 1 inch would go all the way into the house, and then it would probably branch off into the 2.
Okay.
So Michelle or Joe, we're not putting 2 curb stops there?
I don't believe so.
He only wants
One.
He just wants 1 and possibly 2 meters. He's toying with the idea of 1 meter versus 2 3/4 meters. That's pretty much, I think, his say. We just kind of gave him the pros and cons of if somebody's toilet is leaking or they leave a sink on and one person is paying a rent bill and the other person is paying a rent bill, wouldn't you like to know who used the $9,000 of water?
No kidding.
Yeah, that was all. But it's up to him.
Yeah, because this
My question is, if he goes to sell those, let's say they're condos, and he goes and sells them, then you want to shut the water off. One ain't paying the bill, and the other one does. How do we handle that?
you can't shut water off in a rental property anyway.
No, if he ends up selling them someday, Peter. That's what I said. If they were condos and he sold them,
Still going to be 1 unit.
Well, no, he could condominiumize them and then sell each unit
right?
as its own unit. He can do that.
I own one, Michelle owns the other, and she doesn't pay her water bill.
Can we specify in terms of at the actual unit or the building that has the 2 meters? Jill, you said that he talked about 2 meters, or you explained that to him, or you gave pros and cons.
Meters totally have to go in a heated space. So, or a meter pit. I suppose if there was a meter pit, I don't think you'd want to add all that cost to the project, though. I mean,
the only issue is that in order to shut it off, the shut off has to be in our right of way. So either you have to run 2 lines, or you have to trust that they're both going to pay their bill.
Mm-hmm.
How is it handled in other areas? We must have this problem where there's a single line going to a larger house of 2 families or more, right?
we have entire consecutive systems and non-consecutive systems. Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
and so the same thing, like we could run into the same problem. One person might not pay and we decide to shut it off, but that would shut off everything, right?
Let me think about that for one more minute.
The trailer park isn't like that, though. You can shut off one individual unit.
That's what I'm thinking. Could we have curb stops that had 2 curb stops, 1 at the road and 2 at the house, the edge of the house?
You have no right to go onto that property and shut that water off. You have to shut that water off from the town's property.
Well, how do we do it at the trailer?
We don't, because
we do. We have a master meter. We don't shut anybody off at the trailer park. That's a that's a consecutive water system, correct, Jill?
An exempt consecutive if the state has signed. Once the state signs the waiver, it makes less difference to us because nothing changed on our sampling plans. So I don't know if they signed it or not.
But I
well,
mean,
what happens at the Woodlands?
Same thing.
That's the same thing there. There's 1 meter for everything, and it's the owner of the property's responsibility to. I mean, I don't know how you get around that. We only put 1 line into what's his name's on Devon Lane, and that's a duplex.
Yep. Actually, it's 3, isn't it?
Is it 3?
3. It is 3.
It's a 1-inch service. He's got 1 curb, and he's got
3. And I think we had the same discussion on that one.
1 meter. 1 meter. He chose
it's just a loop. 1 meter. We're in a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he only has 1 meter, so it's not. I mean, and he owns it. But if he were to do what you're saying, like this guy could do, we'd be in the same boat there.
Right. Well, he would be in an issue because I'm not sure he would be able to sell it that way. But
so
basically, he's going to have to pay.
How come this person can?
I mean, he's responsible for paying the water bill. How he divvies it up between his two tenants is his issue, right?
The owner is responsible for paying the water bill. How he yes.
So I guess the easiest thing is just to allow it with the conditions and have the single meter. I mean, we talk about what about if we need to shut the water off, but I don't think we've ever shut anybody's water off ever. We've talked about it multiple times. What can we do? Should we shut water off? But I don't think we've ever done it, right?
No, I think we've shut water off for non-payment, but those are ones we can actually shut off. It usually doesn't last long.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's had recommendations from Jill and Cy, so he has that knowledge at least. And what he chooses to do, I guess, is up to him.
There are other ways that he can monitor that water flow, aren't there, Cy or Jill?
Oh, he can do whatever he's willing to do inside of his apartments.
So he could put in some sort of meter so he'd know who was using what. It wouldn't necessarily have to be the same meter we use.
I think that's the right solution, because then if that bill doesn't get paid with that 1 meter, the curb would be shut. That's it. It would shut that 1 meter, and that 1 meter would have the 1 bill. And if he has 10 meters after to monitor every faucet, we don't care.
Here's my understanding, though, is it's going to be his home and he's going to rent out the other side to whoever to do.
Yeah, he's moving to town.
Which is fine. It's not a problem. It's only a problem if he decides to sell it as 2 separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they'll have to deal with that at that time.
Yeah, and if there's only 1 meter, then that's their problem at that point.
If you have a 1 inch line coming into that place, you can split it. You can wire a 3/4 to each side, and you could put a meter in each side of that house, and he could keep track.
But
I totally understand that, but we only want.
I know you want to be able to shut off each one. Then you'd have to run 2 lines, and that's
Correct.
just what it is. It'd be 2 3/4 lines, and that would be his bad luck, I guess.
But right now we have a single owner.
Yep.
And in my mind, it's a single meter.
Yep.
And if he wants to put some sort of system in to meter the water going to the other side,
that's on him.
That's on him.
Yeah,
that makes a whole lot of sense.
I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
Yep.
So is he, Jill and Si, has he requested 2 meters or just 1?
He just asked what the cost differences would be, and
He wants the cheapest route possible is what he's looking for.
Is that always the case?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to have another discussion. If he asks for 2 meters, I think we have to have another discussion.
I think we could convince him to do 1, be it that it would be 1 bill connected to the meter for the town. So if there was a non-payment issue, it wouldn't become a big meeting with issues.
Yeah, but the question is if he has owner occupied one side, rental on the other side, can we shut that meter off? If it's a rental.
I have no idea.
No, not with the new rules that there are right this second.
Well, yeah, right now I know, but
we can't shut anybody off.
Right.
And I don't know that.
If I'm paying my bill and my neighbor's not paying their bill, you guys come shut the water off because you guys 3 years in the rear. Gonna be a little upset. So wait a minute.
But the thing is, Joel, if there's only 1 meter, then whoever owns the place has to collect the.
I agree.
Has to either figure it into the rent or collect it from you when he gets the bill.
I don't mind approving money for 1 meter.
What happens if it's the homeowner who's not paying the bill?
Then you shut the whole smear off, right?
Well, I know, but that's my point. Then your renter is going to be like, what? I paid mine.
So if we make a motion to move this 1K copper line to 1 meter, if he asks, say, next week or a couple of whatever it is, and say, I guess I'm going to go with 2 meters. I think that's another conversation for the board.
That's fine. I mean, put the condition in the permit.
Yep. Write it into the permit.
And then there are other ways, like I said, there are cheaper meters he can buy if he wants to know what they're using in the other apartment.
I would say the only way you're going to have teeth is if you write it into the permit.
Yes.
Why, Joel, why do we have to have another discussion if he wants the second line?
If he wants a second line, we don't. But if he wants a second just the second meter off of 1
meter without another line, I think I go back to if someday he sells those 2, splits them up, kind of like the Jill or Si, help me out. Francis Drive, past from Kevin LaRose's, those 2 houses are hooked together with a garage, 2 garages.
Oh yeah.
Are those separate meters or one meter?
No, those are separate meters.
Separate meters. That's where I'm getting. Those are.
Jolie, you're saying if he wants 2 lines and 2 meters, it's not a problem. It's only going to be a problem if he wants 1 line with 2 meters.
Correct.
Okay. Ian, that's what he's saying. If he wants 2 meters with only 1 line, then we need to have another discussion.
Yeah. How do we shut one of them off when the other one's been paying their bill fine all along?
Well, we can't. It sounds like we don't have the authority.
Right.
We only have the authority to shut off 1 meter. So it doesn't really matter. He could come back, but we're going to still have the same conversation. He's,
I mean,
maybe that's not the renter.
Maybe you guys, number 4, the next one on water use ordinance. Maybe that should be in the ordinance. It says 1 line requires 1 meter.
1 curb.
1 curb stop.
1 curb is 1 meter. Yeah.
1 of everything. 1 meter cannot be split in 2 to go to 2 different residents.
Didn't we just update that ordinance?
Well, it's here
No, we're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got some teeth in it now.
Yeah, it has.
You guys have done a really nice job adding some teeth so that there is something more specific, because it was pretty vague before.
Well, it might get some more teeth.
Sounds like it.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion.
you're gonna have to wear some thick gloves if you read through it.
Yep, I know.
Little barbed wire in there.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the water line for 130 North Street for 1 meter. 1K copper for 1 meter.
Ian had already made a motion.
Oh, did he? I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. And Darla seconded it.
Yeah, with the conditions that were put forth.
With conditions, yeah.
And we're happy with the conditions. And if that changes, as Jill said, to the 1 line 2 meters, then we need to have a further discussion.
Oh, we're not going to allow.
Okay.
1 line with 2 meters.
Split up in 2 meters. Okay.
Yeah, he'll know that, and then he'll know that if he wishes to see the flow to the different units, that he, in his own personal plumbing, could install other meters that aren't read by the town and that aren't connected to bills or shutoffs.
Otherwise, he's going to have to put in 2 lines and 2 meters. But then he'd have to come back.
What if, as long as it was one account, it's all on him? The second he wants to break it up into another account, then he's got to pay for another line. That's straightforward.
I don't know why that wouldn't work as well.
Add that as a condition to the permit.
Why not?
I like it.
Wait, so is that to install another curb shutoff and
That would be
whole new line to the
that
house?
would be a whole new service. If he wants to split it up and sell apart, condominiumize, he's got to install a new service, new curb to the other side of the house to get his occupancy permit.
Oh, I like that. So,
I do too.
Well,
that'd be 10. Let's say 10 years from now, he decides I'm not want to be a landlord anymore. I'm going to sell these two. You got to basically dig another line to one of them. You have the meter of the town of Bristol's in it.
Can we legally do that?
It's a lot more work than just condominiumizing the units. So he may not ever do that, but
Housing is a slippery, interesting.
Can we as a town specify that? That seems like a large specification for a maybe or.
I think we put that in our water ordinance. Yeah,
You need to remember what else you might have in town in other locations, like co-housing locations.
Yeah.
Just be thinking about that, because if you create a standard,
I know.
What's backwards and what's forwards?
Well,
right, and I'm hesitant to put this on this particular person's request too.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if he were to decide to sell them, he would have to figure out with the state and that what he would need to do. I mean, this is not just going to be a simple process for him to sell. He'd have to sell it as 1 unit, apartment unit, or duplex, or he'd have to jump through hoops to condominiumize and make common lands and all this other crap.
Okay.
I think we're overthinking it.
Yeah.
As we do.
1 line, 1 meter.
Yes.
Can someone please reiterate the conditions? Or your motion, one or the other.
It's in the town administrator's report. If you want to put it there, I can, or it's on the screen, I can read it.
Yeah. It's item B, B.3, Tasha, if you've got the report.
Basically, after all that discussion, we didn't change anything.
1 line, 1 meter.
So there's no further conditions than what's already listed.
No, correct.
Okay.
Well, I was planning to add a sixth or another sentence that if an additional meter is desired, that water commission approval would be needed.
No, we don't.
No.
We only want 1 meter.
Okay.
Yeah. It would have to be a whole new line. It had to be a second line.
Okay.
So I think leaving it as it is. I think this is.
Cy and Joe can take care of it, explaining to him if he wants to know what is. He'll have to do it in his own personal plumbing. I think they've got that under control.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, he's a pretty rational guy. He'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's cheaper meters, and at my house here, I have a system that you can strap on a meter and be able to read it on your and record. So if he's thinking about rental, something easy, that's another system that can read stuff, which is nice.
Perfect.
Further discussion?
Can I hear just? I'm sorry. Can I hear, Tasha? Can you repeat Ian's motion?
I'm just saying move to approve with the conditions that Valerie listed in her town administrator's report.
Okay.
Because she listed all 5 of those conditions.
Yeah. That's what you say on your screen, Bill, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Ian, your motion was for the type K copper line. You did put that in your motion. I mean, that was part of the motion.
And that's what's proposed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Valerie, I thought we raised that 500 to 750 last year.
No. We raised it from 250 to 500.
Well, maybe we're going to raise it 500.
No.
50 comes to mind. 750 comes to mind.
No, that's just the base connection fee. Then on top of that is the cost of the meter and any other gizmo and water operator time.
Oh, okay.
All spelled out there. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. Darla, I'm assuming you raised your hand because you were off my screen.
I did. I raised it and I wiggled it around.
All right.
Okay, that was supposed to be 5 minutes, and that took 30 minutes to discuss a water line connection. We got to get better at this.
All right. Like I said, we're overthinking some of this stuff.
Yes, we are.
Consider adoption of proposed water use ordinance and amendment.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
No, this is 15 minutes. I think we got time.
Yeah, but we gotta do it in 5 because we overwent on the other one.
That ain't happening.
That's funny.
All right.
All right.
You know, there was a new thing in here towards the end, Valerie, that I wanted to ask you if it was something that maybe you saw in a state document. It was within the water supply emergency rules and regulations. Number 4 has been added.
Right. And actually, let's see. Hang on here.
I just want these guys to know what they're responsible for.
Well, exactly.
That can be deal.
I'm trying to get that up on my.
That's not gonna work, Jill.
Do you want me to share that?
I thought I did. Let me.
Or put it on the screen here.
Yeah.
It's probably this big.
How do I get?
Oh, it looks like it's not just you and me.
So I'm gonna jump in here a minute while Val's looking for this stuff. I have a whole bunch of comments and thoughts and changes to this. I don't know if it might make sense for me to just send that to all of you guys. Like, I mean, I actually had a discussion with Kevin today about this, and there was some stuff that he said that we need to make sure we consider in here. And, some of the things he said were like, we need to make sure that we reference 24 BSA 1974A, which allows us to seek civil enforcement, not just criminal. And he says, because criminal enforcement, he said, you're never going to get. The state's attorney's just never going to deal with it. Stuff about the count. We were talking about the calendar year. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to come out, and part of my feeling was that is, I was trying to figure out what it truly meant. And I get it if it's somebody, once does something once and then the next year, it's the same landowner. But if you have a
habitual
contractor who does habitually, and it's on different projects within the town, they get a reprieve every year. And it's like, well, that shouldn't be right.
I agree. That should come out.
The other thing is, I talked to him about the penalties that we have in here. And he said, we can set them to whatever we want. he said, if you don't set them, then there's a statutory penalty schedule. He said personally, him and I were talking, I said, personally, I said, hit them hard the first time and make it hurt so that they don't do it again. So I was like, well,
Michelle, can you just a second? Ian, can you send me that? This is the only thing that I got, Valerie, that didn't come in. I got your minutes and everything out, but I didn't get this.
That's because I had to download it.
Yeah, it's a link in the.
And you can, it's linked. It's linked to my TA report too.
Today, the old firewall came right up today at work. Didn't get any of it.
Oh.
Send it to me, Ian.
Okay.
I'll get it right here.
All right, sent. Should getting that. Michelle, I think you should just send. If you have a bunch of changes, I think you just send it to us or send it to Val, and she can put them in or comments, or if you can comment on the live version or whatever. I think that might be the best thing.
Yeah.
So at what point do we send this? If you've talked about it with Kevin, at what point do we send it to Kevin to actually look at, or are we not doing that?
Right. And he said he's happy to look at it, but he doesn't want to step on any toes or anything. He just happened to see it on the agenda and it was like, oh my God, I need to make sure they look at this. And that was that 24 VSA section 1974. He said to make sure it's in there.
It's right there. Yeah. Format is a little wonky, but
yeah. So, okay. I'll send my comments to Val.
Yeah. If that's okay. Val.
I mean, I'm happy to send it to everybody if you all want to look at them.
Well, it sounds like this is going to be continued, especially in an hour. Yeah. But maybe we could just skim through some of the points just so that we can get a sense of what is works for folks, and what needs a little bit more work.
What is mainly what you're looking to change is the legal stuff, Michelle? The fines?
No, I have questions like, disconnection. Like I say, what is that? What does disconnection really mean? Like, would there also be a disconnection if they fail to allow us to repair a service or replace a meter? Do we disconnect them? Things like that. Do we need to get into some of those details? So that some of them are just questions or comments like, what does this mean? Do we need more detail?
So where do you want to start? You want to start at the top and work our way down through? Or
I don't know that you wanted to take that much time. That's why I was just going to send you my comments.
Yeah. So let me just flip down here. So the stuff that's in red was already in place from the previous review. Mm-hmm. Highlighted, I added since then, because we're talking about including an application process for repair. Right. And the section that Jill was referring to, this water emergency, it raised a red flag for me because I wanted to have a discussion about what that means. What is a water supply emergency? Is it just a leak repair, or a hydrant repair, or what's the threshold?
So
constitutes an emergency.
Now, I think maybe you want to put in there, water supply emergency may include, but is not limited to, and that way it kind of gives us a little bit of leeway.
Yeah. So here it's water supply emergency may include contamination, repair of a leak, low water supply at the storage tank, or failure of any part of the water supply or distribution system.
You don't want to have a meeting anytime there's a leak, though. I mean, that's too much. Personally, that's too much because there's leaks. There can be many.
Right.
There can also be none. He doesn't want me to jinx anybody. But you guys wouldn't want to have a meeting every time we have a leak repair.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's hold this thought. So just know that section was added, and we'll come back to the language, and added repair when an application is required. And again, water emergency, we can come back to refine what that language needs to be. Here in this part, I'm saying that in the case of an emergency, including immediate repair of a service line, the application may be waived, and the water operator may authorize the repair. I mean, there in some instances it just might not be practical to go through an application process to deal with something right away.
If it's leaking out a bunch of water and it's going to harm, if it's going to reduce the water supply greatly and harm property or physical infrastructure, we definitely wouldn't like, hey, wait, let's have a meeting.
Right.
Fix it.
But if there's a leak that people can plan ahead to deal with, then
totally plan ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't consider leaks emergencies unless they're emergency leaks. Just I see them as maintenance, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like proactive maintenance.
So here again, we've added specific reference to curb stops as something that can't be tampered with, and anything that hasn't been witnessed may need to be excavated for inspection. I'm going to add at the property owner's expense.
Right.
Do you
again? What was that?
If you're putting in there, if you fail to do so, or do we not need to do that because we have the assessments and fines or whatever lower down?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe deemed to be a violation of this ordinance.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe required to be excavated for inspection and deemed
a violation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Scroll. So here we talked about the copper, the material preferences. Here we updated the enforcement provisions.
This is where she wanted to take that extra year out, or the year.
Yeah,
like annual
totally.
year.
That'll go.
Because you're having 2 spots there.
Oh, we'll make sure it's gone. So down here talks about this is Appendix B, the heading got chopped off.
Mm-hmm.
This emergency water supply thing. Says within 24 hours following a water supply emergency, the water commissioner shall duly warn a special meeting to formally adopt any applicable rules and regulations as they pertain to the specific emergency. Such rules shall be adopted by a majority vote of the water commissioner, shall be recorded in the minutes, posted in 5 locations within the town, and shall become effective immediately upon adoption. Such rules may remain in effect for a period not to exceed 90 days or until such time as the emergency is over.
Yeah, that word shall means you don't get to not do it without being in trouble with yourself.
So does anybody have any experience with this provision or any, I don't really understand how to know if it applies. And
where did it come from?
I don't know.
Let me rattle your brain a little bit here. Didn't we have one? Bill Bryant was town administrator at the time, and we had a water emergency. I remember we were at the old fire station upstairs, and you got any memory on that? No, I remember we had something, and we had to.
We issued a.
We issued a boil water order immediately. Remember why though?
If you had to boil water, it was probably a E. coli hit.
Bacteria. No, it was
instead of just coliform, an E. coli positive is a do not drink. It's an absolute. You have to warn the public immediately.
But is that it was supply emergency?
It was a break somewhere where we got contamination. I don't think it was ever tested.
I want to say it was the river crossing, wasn't it?
I don't.
It's been a while since.
Maybe this is something we can give more thought to when we come back to it, and to really think about what defines a water supply emergency versus some other kind of emergency, like a leaking hydrant or something, or a broken hydrant.
I mean, I think Joe said it. You know, if somebody runs off the road, skids off the road, and they break a hydrant off and start shooting water, I'm not sure we need to call it an emergency.
Right.
We need to fix it, but we don't warn the town unless the tanks and the water level are dropping so rapidly that we need to be like, don't use water unless it's, we're running low, because the pressure will drop and the supply will drop.
Yeah, and then applicable rules and regulations. I mean, I can understand issuing conservation notices and boil water notices, but does that constitute a rule and a regulation?
I just don't know where the wording came from. It sounds like a curse to me. It's got the word in it, and it's saying you have to have meetings, so which means it could be used against you if you don't do it.
Valerie, number one above that yellow one, it's all yellow. One is there's another word missing there. Upon the detection or notification of emergency situation regarding the supply of water to the water operator and town administrator should the water to should there be a word after the word to there? Like to the system?
That was my comment that this sentence didn't make sense.
Yeah, it still needs the word service area. The red line has to move over 2 words to the right.
Okay.
Service area.
Yeah, put service area there. There, okay, there. I see it was crossed out. So that's why.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Yeah, this is PDF, so I'm not editing this. Okay, so those are the hotties for this draft.
Okay, now we spent half an hour, as Ian said, on the one before that. Should we have something in our language that says for every meter you have, you must have one line from curb stop?
I think you would say from every curb stop because you'd follow the flow of the water.
Right.
You must have you can have no more than one town meter per curb. That way it's following the flow, and that if they want another town meter, another bill, they need another curb, another service, another line. Yeah, because it goes tap, curb.
KTP was one master meter now. I can remember Scott going over there and shutting trailers off all day long, or a quarter just about, a different trailer. And it's amazing, as Penny Sherwood used to say, if we could collect taxes like we do water bills by shutting with a wrench, we'd have 0 taxes in town. Because you go shut their water off on a Tuesday, they were down by Wednesday morning to pay their bill.
So it sounds like we would add a provision in this section of the ordinance, section 7, somewhere. I'll have to take a little bit more time to see where it fits best.
Yeah, probably right around B.
Yeah.
About a 15-minute mark on this.
So it sounds like I will receive Michelle's comments, and we will put this on the next agenda, and hopefully folks will have a chance to look at it ahead of time. And
I have a couple more, as they do in the Congress. I vow to have 5 more minutes. Why I asked for our neighbors to up on 130 North Street, because they did approach the Orvises about digging from that line that goes across my parents' old property.
And their septic system, yeah.
They wanted to hook and go the long way. Mike told them no, because he someday might want to develop it himself. So,
well, we wouldn't let them anyway. Because
we have that language speaker. That's
not in the right of way.
It's not in the right of way.
Okay, but it's on our service. It's on a main line. Does it say main line or service?
Technically not a service line. That's a loop.
Well, it's the main. It's a main. Right? It's a main.
It's a loop line that's out of any right of way.
If somebody built behind Orvis's, which line would you come off from?
North Street.
If they built behind Orvis's and go past their septic system, or would you, if it was right near that line going down to Malzac's, down to Meadow Lane, would you come off the main?
You know what's going to happen? We're going to have one of these, and you guys get to decide at one of these meetings.
I would say if you were going to put in a private road, if you were going to put in a private road, possibly if you could get a right of way off from that line somewhere, then you would have a way to do it, working in the right of ways. But if you don't have a road, how would you have the right to be on that property to be able to do anything?
You can't shut it off if it's not in the right of way. It's a peaker thing, and it's also super hard to find those shutoffs if they're not where they're supposed to be.
Well, town does have a right of way for that main. My father gave them that right of way.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but even still, they'd have to have a drive. Like Jill says, they'd have to have a driveway. Or Cyrus, one of them said they'd have to have a driveway, so which means they'd have to have a right of way from North Street. So they would have access to North Street to put the curb out there.
You know what? Another night, there's going to be one of these 10 or 15 years from now.
It's not going to be our decision.
Good point.
On the recent housing development on North Street, where they had multiple taps off of the main, that curb stop was out of the right of way.
It's just to which side of the sidewalk?
West of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So
how far does the right of way go off the edge of the road?
25 feet from the center line.
From the center line. I'd have to throw a tape measure on it.
And we found that out because they did not need a work in the right of way permit because the curb stop was out of the right of way.
Oh, it's just behind it, huh?
Right.
Is that the one they tapped already?
Yeah.
Without us
exactly
watching it?
Yeah. Right.
They tapped with us present. They just connected to the curb stop without anybody around.
Mm-hmm.
The plastic and no
Jill, they connected to all 3 curb stops.
Yes.
On the north.
Ran 3 service lines without an operator present to witness the connections to the town system. Yep.
So those are the ones on North Street, the new ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But because they had written permits from the town, written approval, that it didn't give us a lot of leverage to fire any further action.
Right. And the clause that are in this ordinance now to say, okay, you touched the curb of the town without permission, you have clause now. Once this is approved, which it's still in progress.
So, but even if, like in this case, it wasn't in the town's right of way, we need to make sure we're covered under that in this too, Val.
That's the
we either need to get an easement from whoever's property, something, so that we have rights to get onto it. Because right now we don't have rights to get onto it if it's outside the right of way.
Either need an easement or we need them to move it.
Right. They either need to give us an easement, because right now we can't shut that water off because it's not in our right of way. Right?
Somebody go out and measure that.
I'm not sure it's not in our right of way, Michelle. It's on the inside of the sidewalk.
It's on the outside of the sidewalk. It's on the inside of the sidewalk.
It's on the west side.
Yeah. It's outside of the sidewalk.
Further from the road to that side.
So we'll just how far off the sidewalk? We'll go down through there and we'll put in a 5-foot sidewalk and we'll put it all on that side. It'll be in the sidewalk.
Oh, good plan.
Well, I think we need to deal with this, because if it is not within our right of way, what legal rights do we have to that tap?
To that hydrant? We don't.
Right. Well, that's my point, is we need to have, so we need to either get an easement or something so we do have rights to it.
There's language in the ordinance that authorizes the Water Commission / town to access any part of the system as needed. And I don't know where it is exactly, but it is in there.
Well, I would just want to make sure we're covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to find it right now, but
yeah, no, I don't expect you to.
That the meter itself and the meter set technically belongs to the town, and it's in the basements of these homes.
Right. And the ordinance specifically authorizes the town to access that whenever needed.
Yep.
Like I said, I didn't read this whole thing, but Valerie, I've asked you before, and you thought it was in here. Not only when Sire Jill sees the pipe in the ditch and it's properly dug, it's 7 feet at least or whatever, and we see a pile of huge rubble and everything else they're starting to put in. Do we have any specifications in what this line shall be buried with?
No.
Yeah, the bedding material should be sand.
Yeah, I think we should say that.
Yeah, the first, like, what, how many? 6 inches to a foot?
Yeah, I ask for 6 inches to a foot, usually when I work with folks.
Yeah.
Sand.
6 to 12 inches of sand around it so it can't be punctured.
I like the word 12.
And then it's usually they fill it in with the native material after that.
Yep.
Well, if that's the case, then don't we need to amend the permit we just approved that didn't have that condition in there?
You know what? You're right, Michelle. That is not in there. And it doesn't give us a typical trench detail.
Right.
This is really just a landscape bird's eye plan.
I asked
Tell me
Valerie.
again what the specification should be.
Michelle, I asked Valerie that same question today. Should we switch 3 and 4 around tonight? So if we vote for 4 that we're considering right now, then it applies to number 3. And she said this number 4 won't take effect for
60 days after adoption.
It's 60 days after it's right.
We want to say size shall be on site to see what material is going into that ditch from
in the conditions.
The house, and we should.
Well, that wasn't in not in the conditions. Speaker wasn't the sand.
Not the sand, no, but he'll be on site, and if he doesn't approve of the backfill, I don't think it's going to be an issue there.
No,
okay.
You're right.
Although, why don't we nail down that wording that you'd like to see?
Yeah, it shall be bedded in 12 inches of sand.
The line?
The service line, yes.
I'd like to see 4 inches under and 12 inches above.
14.
Say 12 inches embedded, 12 inches of sand. Jill, I'm just worried about they'll put 6 inches in and then 4 over, or 8 in and then put 4 over the top and a rock hitting it.
What you mean? Yep.
I'd like to see it specialized, say 12 inches of sand over the top of the pipe.
Right, 4 inches under and 12 over. Inches of sand under 12 inches.
Does somebody want to make a motion to add that to the prior application approval?
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second.
Further discussion? The only thing I would say is, what if Cy deems the material there is acceptable? I mean, if they're digging in sand, are you going to make them draw sand in?
No. I agree. Suitable soil. Sand.
But if it looks like Rockydale and it's got 6 foot boulders, we're going to say do not put that on that water line. Period. Not even within 48 inches of it, because it will create damage later.
Can we leave it at the discretion of our operator? These are the minimum, but it's at the discretion of the operator.
We don't necessarily see them bury the entire thing is the only part. So we have to be a little careful. We can see them bed it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you actually want, just as a FYI, you might want your construction specifications separate from your ordinance. So you can change it as materials change in your ordinance. It's more the rules.
Can you make it as a Schedule B or some Schedule C or something like that?
That's what's recommended when you do like a fee schedule is a document that you point to that you can change more often, like a fee schedule and then a construction specification schedule. And that way you're not having to update your ordinance with all the special rules. You can change just your construction specifications as you find the need and not have to do the whole big giant ordinance change.
So the motion was to require the pipe to be bedded in sand.
4 inches below and 12 inches above.
And if the material's acceptable, can Cy waive that?
If the material is acceptable by their water operator, that can be waived.
Well, why would you want to waive it if the question is
well, if you dig all
import
sand
material? I mean, sand is sand is sand, whether it's suitable on site or
there are like step analysis if you want to get kind of technical about sand.
No, we don't want to go that far.
No, I don't think we want to say sand to sand. We just want to kind of understand that it's something that's not going to be heavy and puncture heavy and pointy and puncture or roll and break a water line.
I guess I'd rather leave it sand is sand. Because
Okay.
sand, yes, but and say it's up to the operator. Then the contractor's going to say, "Oh, come on, son. That's got that little fine gravel. We can." And no, he could just say the ordinance says sand. If you were digging sand, I'll let you put it back, but you're not digging sand. So don't put that on side. Have to be the heavy. Say, well, I guess I'll let this one go. And then the next operator comes along and says, you let that one go. Well, this one got a little more gravel. So I don't want to make side the scientists and put that heavy on him. Just say it's not sand. You can't use it. It says sand.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
So the motion was for 4 below and
12 above.
12 above on 130 North Street's application.
Right.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Opposed? I didn't see Ian and Darla.
I agree.
Hand was up.
Okay.
Yep, I agree.
Well, I only got with the thing up there. I don't see everybody, so
Mhm.
Oh, right.
I just want to make sure.
And in the long run, it saves the homeowner.
Motion carried.
Okay.
In the long run, it saves the homeowner. If that punctures, and they'll say, if they say, well, if it punctures, you have to replace your copper. This way, it ain't gonna.
All right, are we still on the ordinance, or are we done with that for tonight?
At the moment, we're still on it, but we're wrapping it up
Okay.
in terms of.
Eric, got a question.
Okay.
Just that thing on North Street with them 3 connections or 3 curb stops. The only reason that they're outside of the sidewalk is because between the sidewalk and the road, there is a culvert that goes from catch basin to catch basin. And they bored underneath that to where the main is to tap on, so they didn't cut the road. So we allowed them to go on the outside. Other than that, they would have been in it right away.
So are they out of the right of way, Eric?
Yeah, they're probably a foot off the sidewalk.
Is the side? I mean, the
I
green
can
space
manage
is
it
pretty narrow there.
What's that?
Green space is fairly narrow there.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, I could measure it tomorrow, but I'm almost gonna bet they're on the outside of the right of way.
I think it's within a foot.
Yeah, it's close.
So I agree with Michelle. We probably should get an easement from Robert Fuller stating we can access those curb stops.
I'm pretty sure that there's language in the ordinance that authorizes the town to access all the nuts and bolts of the system.
I mean, there's hydrants that are up at the high school. There's quite a bit of system stuff not in the right of way, like the entire hill where the line comes down from the tank. That's not within 25 feet of the road. It comes like all the way down.
Well, remember last year when we went to Jackman's on the auto tour?
Yeah.
The meter pit there on their complex. I mean, is that in a public right of way?
No, it's not. You're right.
And Chris called me last week, Chris Acker, and he said one of the reasons they put them on the inside was what Eric said, the culvert, and the second one is once they eventually going to hook back to those curb stops, they don't have to redig up the sidewalk and then have to replace the sidewalk again.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's what I remember.
Speaking of sidewalks, that's coming up next.
Ooh.
No, maybe not next, soon. Yeah, we better probably wrap this up.
Done. Moving on.
Okay.
Consider RFP for 2020 professional audit services.
Yes, perhaps you saw the email that we received from Fred Duplessis from Sullivan and Powers informing us that if they were to remain our auditor, they would have to increase their contract by an additional $5,000 because they increased it the previous year as well. Because they had to write off over $6,000 this time. And also the 2 main people that have been working down in Bristol for a while no longer with the company. So that was an opening for us to consider putting the audit services out to bid. And as I mentioned in my notes, it's pretty frequent advice that agencies, any whether it's municipal or nonprofit or corporation, should change auditors on an occasional basis. Often 3 years is referenced, and that's often why auditing contracts are for 3-year terms. So Jen took a stab at drafting an RFP using a model from the town of Sharon. I also had other models to look at, and so what was posted online for you to review is kind of a combination of what she started and some of the things that I found in other RFPs for auditing services.
Make a motion that we allow the town administrator and town treasurer to work jointly in putting out another bid for auditing services.
Excellent.
Second.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I have one question. Val, I was reading through this. Are our firefighters paid per call volunteer firefighters? I can't keep up, but what the name is now. I didn't think they were called that now.
Well, we'll double check on that.
Yeah. That was my only comment.
Yeah. And also another thing that we're definitely going to change is the section on timing considerations. In chatting with Sharon and Jen, exchanging information today with Jen, that we're going to change some of the language to instead ask them to provide us with an estimate of a schedule, especially for the first year and then subsequent years, because we're getting a late start. It might not be realistic to expect them to have it finished by December. So instead, we'll ask them to propose a schedule, and we'll see how that looks.
Perfect.
Who seconded that? And do you want me to, because Jen's out, should I change that to interim? Or is there someone else in mind for that?
I'll change the wording to treasurer or her assistant.
Okay.
I seconded it.
Okay,
Gotcha.
thanks.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed. Motion carried.
Yeah.
Consider next steps regarding lack of response for advertising for assessor's position.
I don't have a recommendation.
So Val, what about the thought that they had presented of combining it with another town? Do you think we might get more? I mean, because my guess is the 25 hours or whatever it is just not enough for some of them, or too much.
I had a good conversation with Jen about this about a month ago, and she had some really valid points about why that would be very complicated, just administratively and logistically. One of the complications would be that because of the audit cycles and budgeting cycles, that all the coalition towns would all be needing the assessor at the same time, quite likely, because of the different deadlines that apply at different times of the year. So that would be a challenge. And I don't remember all of the other points that she raised, but it would definitely be complicated.
Valerie, what did we start out with the pay on that? What was it starting out?
Like $25 an hour or something like that.
I thought it was 20.
I think we asked them to make a proposal. Yeah, the starting rate is based on qualifications and experience.
Right, that's right.
I don't know that we'll come up with any answers tonight, but anyway, we gave it a really good shot. And many towns are advertising for assessors right now and are in the same boat. And Terry Sabins has approached these other municipalities with the same suggestion of combining forces. So maybe some of them are actually going to do it, and maybe depending on how much time that takes for that to happen, we might learn from other people's experience with it. But I don't know that we want to. I don't know what our options are for waiting. I know that.
Does anybody want a job?
The listers are, they're working hard on trying to meet all of the requirements, and they're putting in a lot of time. I mean, they need to. It's important, but they could really use some help.
Tell them we're trying.
Oh, they know. Any suggestions?
I don't have any suggestions.
I wonder
are there any retired appraisers out there who would be willing to like jump in even short term?
No, the one that we were trying to entice took a job with the state.
Sure, their benefits are better.
Valerie, if I get a chance, I run into Bill Hinman. He's the assessor for Williston. Bill and I go back way back. I'll ask him if he's got any ideas.
Okay.
Such, and I'll get back with you.
Okay. Bill, my age, Bill, not his dad, not Lynn, right? You're talking Bill.
Bill, our age. Yeah, your age.
Ready to move on?
I guess we'll wait and see when this needs to come back as an agenda item. I don't know that it would be ready for next time, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it won't be ready until we have some sort of answer.
Right, something to talk about. And maybe we want to invite Terry Sabin to zoom in on a meeting and have a conversation with us about her thoughts and how she envisions it would work. And it would be great if and when that happened, if Jen could be tuned into.
So maybe we try to set that up, or do you think we need to wait a little bit longer and see where she ends up?
I think we have to wait a little bit longer. Let Jen catch her breath, and yeah.
Okay.
What Joel comes back with.
All right.
Big Bill Cole.
So when it's appropriate, it'll be back on.
Yeah.
Got it.
But meanwhile, keep thinking about possibilities.
Okay. Review of bids and select a contractor for the East Street and Park Place sidewalk replacement project. May include deliberation and executive session regarding contract negotiation.
As I mentioned in my notes, I have not publicly disclosed the one proposal that we received by last week's due date because it significantly exceeded the estimate. And the select board can either choose to accept it and then we would disclose it, or the select board may choose to put the project back out to bid.
Can I give a suggestion here? I mean, part of me thinks we might have gotten this out too late this year, just given given COVID and given how busy people are. I'm wondering if we wait until next year and then just do double, do what we were going to do this year and next year, which means we'll have even more to do. And if we get that bid out or the RFP out in January, maybe we'll have a better luck with getting more people to respond. Because then at that point, they're starting to plan. I mean, some of them are already planning next year's projects. Yeah, so I'm just curious if that would be a better plan.
The other thing we need to bear in mind is that we're getting very strict about traffic control and our rules as far as
right.
what they have, and right. That's going to cost us more money. There's no two ways about it. When you and rightfully so, we shouldn't have people working in the right of way where it's unsafe, and that's what we've had. Granted, some of the streets aren't as busy, but East Street is. Park Place, maybe not so much, but East Street is definitely a place where they're going to need that traffic control and signage.
Mm-hmm. Right.
but I don't know. We're considerably more. We're 25, 30%.
What?
Over what we were.
Double.
Yeah.
Valerie,
more than double.
Did we ask for 2 quotes, one that we dig it and one that they dig it?
No, we didn't do that this time.
And we're not gonna, because last time Eric can't say no, he's gonna say yes, and then we're gonna get there and he's
why I say
not
that
gonna have time to do
it. Why I say that, Picker, was because talking with Eric the other day, he's moved some stuff around a little bit because he's got 2 new men and he's trying to more training and stuff. So it's not going to do that project that he thought he was going to do in the upper or lower notch, and the high bridge down, and those types of things. So I was just wondering. That's all I. Now with his change of staff this year, could he have done the dig?
Now, it could be that the select board, given what Peeker just said about traffic control, and that's a real factor that will influence the bid price, cost of materials. Is it going to be any better or worse next year? Quite likely the quote reflects the pressure on materials right now. So
some sort of
that's just the reality of now.
I do know the contractor that you were mentioning in your TA report got the ones for Main Street and Middlebury also. And so he's obviously sharpened his pencil, but he outbid some other ones down there and they didn't get a lot of bids either. Middlebury didn't. So, but he is extremely busy. Michelle doesn't have a bad idea. Is, put them out now for April 1 of 2022.
If we do wait, is there an issue? The funds are town funds, correct? They're not grant related that they need to be spent in a certain amount of time or anything.
They're in a capital fund now, Darla, so we can hold them over without losing them for sidewalks.
Okay.
That's why we did that, because we were running into an issue with not being able to get them done before July, and
safety concern in either one of them, Valerie? Either section?
I'm sorry?
Is there a safety concern either section that we can't wait any longer?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that the folks at Park Dental are anxious to see their section improved, but I don't know if it's a safety concern.
I mean, to Michelle's point, if you double the size, let's say we're going to do more, twice as much, because we're going to do basically 2 years. When you can mobilize and bring in equipment and stuff, that per foot cost will probably drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
And we may be able to get more bids because there's more, and it'll be worthwhile for somebody. Not that that's not worthwhile, but. What's your pleasure? You want to hold off for now?
I would say we put it out to bid for next year, and I would put the bids out soon, maybe September or whenever, but I'd put it out so that they can plan on an April 1 or May 1 start date.
I wonder if that's realistic given the fluctuating material prices, that it might not be possible for folks to anticipate what things are going to cost a year from now.
I mean, I think
maybe January.
Truth there, but I think we put it out by November 1st and have them back just before Thanksgiving. And, they're going to build that in a little bit. Or they could give us a yard price per yard. The only thing that could change was the per yard of concrete. Get the bids.
I don't mean to put Sarah on the spot, but she's been tuned in all night. And if she's tuned in right now, I wonder if Sarah would be willing to share her thoughts on this approach. Might be tuned in.
Yes, you lost her.
Yeah.
Fell asleep on us. Hey, Sarah, are you there?
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
No, that's my phone. That's Siri, not Sarah.
That was Siri, not Sarah.
That's funny.
Oh, how funny. Oh. Well, it would be interesting to get that feedback.
Well, I mean, I think we take a chance no matter when we put it out because they're never going to know exactly what the prices are. I mean, they give us a price now because it's such a short time frame. They could tell us what that price was, but normally they're not going to know 100%. So,
yeah, and I think, as Jill said, I think having a larger amount to do, I think is going to be beneficial. So I think putting it off until next year is probably our best bet.
And you know, we do have some American Rescue funds coming. You know, we might want to put another few $1,000s into that and say, you know, let's do triple what we usually do.
Right.
Don't spend your chickens for brother hatched. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not spending
Well,
it now.
I hope to have more information on that grant funding after Wednesday training or orientation or whatever it's called.
Talking to Therese Kirby on this weekend, she's under the impression with this American Rescue money that it can only be used to go in the ground, so to speak. Can't use it to build buildings or things of that nature. She's been getting some advice that says only been used, as she put it, put stuff in the ground.
There's Sarah.
Hey. Oh, you're muted, Sarah.
Yeah, unmute Sarah. Oh. There you go.
Hey. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my neighbor was at my door. So I was listening. I'm not at all qualified to speak to the bidding at all. I'm the person that types it up and makes sure that Valerie gets it.
Which you did a good job.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because the question was if you had any insights about timing.
And I don't.
You don't do the scheduling either, huh?
I don't do the scheduling for that kind of stuff. No.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening anyway.
Right.
Well, I was curious, you know, as to who was going to win. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Jill, go ahead.
I did work for some civil construction engineering firms for like 20 years and did a lot of bid analysis and projects out to bid. Traditionally speaking, historically speaking, I can't speak to what we're going through financially right this second and the cost of materials, but traditionally speaking, if you put a project out late in the fall or early in the winter for first thing in the spring, you will get your best bids because contractors don't have their plates filled yet. So it's that whole law of economics. Right. You're willing to do things for a little bit better of a rate when you don't think you have any work. And then as you get fuller and fuller and fuller, yeah, I can do a little more, but I might have to hire more people. I'm taking more risk. I'm getting more tired. I'm stretching further into the season. Mm-hmm. So it's the bowl full of candy.
Yeah. And well, I guess I'll take it, but I'm going to make some serious money because you want it done immediately. And we're going to work Saturdays and pay time and a half.
It's like people that bring their taxes in 2 days before the tax deadline. That CPA can charge them $250 an hour and just laugh the whole way through the taxes.
All the way to the bank.
Yep. Contractors do the same thing. And it's because they have to bid it faster. They have to take more risk, or they have to stretch it further and they have to take more risk. So
it sounds like December or January would be the better time to put it out.
Yep. Because right through November, contractors are so busy, they can't even breathe.
Right.
Yep. And then finally come like December, they get through the holidays. Maybe they've got a couple weeks if they're estimators. By January, they want to be filling that till for the next week because they've got 20 employees, 50 employees, 100, 200. They have to get their backlog filled or they're in trouble.
Get something on the books.
Yep.
So it sounds like putting it out in January after all the holidays and the dust is settled and folks can breathe.
Yeah, they're really happy to bid it once they get back in the new year. People don't love bids that are due Thanksgiving week or Christmas week or New Year's week because they think that you've just, personally hurt them. But that's just my 2 cents based on that history in the past of doing lots of bid analysis and seeing when the prices came in high and when they came in low. And clarity of the plans also helps with your cost. If the contractor can see exactly what they're doing and exactly what they need versus if there's a lot of undefined things and their costs could increase a lot because they don't really know what they're getting into.
Right. Built in a contingency.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I got.
That was good.
I just didn't know if we had to mark out any water lines soon.
Oh.
So the consensus is to wait, let it out again in January.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Are you good with that?
I am.
Sorry about that, Sarah. It looks like we're waiting until January to let it out again.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it go out the first week of January.
Yep.
She'll just be typing it up again.
January 3rd. Mail
Thank
out.
you, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sarah.
All right. Continued consideration of funding allocations for Main Street sidewalk and lighting project and local expenses.
So I revised the recommendation to suggest that all of the local share out of the Stony Hill proceeds and that we preserve what's in the sidewalk fund for either the project that we just finished talking about or carrying it over just like Michelle suggested into the next year.
Yep. I'm fine with that.
Do you want a motion to that effect or you?
Yeah. And another aspect or another rationale for doing that is the Stony Hill proceeds are unrestricted, and they result from a community development type of effort and investment. And this would be continuing that kind of community development investment because it was more than just sidewalks. It was also the lighting and the crosswalk and just other improvements, aesthetic, downtown.
Drainage, the whole 9 yards. It was,
yeah. So there's a correlation.
I make a motion to use the Stony Hill Livingston funds for the local match for the Main Street sidewalk and lighting project expenses.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, but my question, I know we've got the Northern Border money that's going to stuff the infrastructure stuff for roads and ditching and all that. How much more are we going to need?
Only in Stony Hill.
Huh?
Only in Stony Hill.
No, he wants to know how much more money we're going to have to put into that, I think is where he's headed.
Right.
Into that? Zero.
Zero? So more than... so that, what we're putting in from our grant from the Northern Border, we don't have to put anything more because I was going to try to hold some of this back because we only got 125 left of the sale of the lands.
No, for the Stony Hill infrastructure project, whatever the grant doesn't cover, it's on Stony Hill to cover.
Okay.
We're just a pass through.
Yeah, we're just a pass through.
Okay, then I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know if you're going to need some money from town funds for some more stuff over there. Then I'd want to.
No, we already paid or had it withheld from our part of the infrastructure that we owed to get to the property line.
Right. Okay.
The beauty of this is that there's still a fairly healthy balance left in that undesignated or unrestricted fund for other community development type investments.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. To have that one on the list.
Consider town operations reopening plan when the governor's emergency order is lifted. Well, it's lifted, so let's make a plan.
Well, I thought we are fully open, aren't we? Or fairly much, except one day a week on Fridays?
Correct. Right.
We're open, but people still need to pick appointments for pedal searching and that.
Right.
That's not free reign. I can tell you New Haven just sent around an email saying they're fully open, no appointments necessary.
Mm-hmm. And I talked with Sharon today about any other restrictions that she would recommend remain in place, and such as masking. And she felt that as long as folks were vaccinated, that they didn't need to wear a mask, but would recommend folks wear masks if they're not vaccinated. But she wasn't going to plan to require anything.
That's the same line that's on Tractor Supply. If you're fully vaccinated, no mask required.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's the same as Shaw's. That's the same at Martin's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't recall if the Shaw's sign said if you're not vaccinated, a mask is required or recommended. I don't remember.
I think it says recommended.
I thought so too. So I think we agree that the town office.
It's for their safety. It's not. I mean.
Yeah. Right. So the big question is how we resume in-person meetings.
I was just going to say that. What's the requirements for the committee meetings and board meetings and stuff like
that?
Yeah,
the with the emergency order lifted, the open meeting law back in full effect. So technically, there's still there. We need to resume physical meeting space. Technically, only one person needs to be there, and everybody else can zoom in if they still want to. But one person needs to be there to accommodate public participation.
So would we go back to meeting downstairs or would we meet upstairs?
Can I ask a question? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but is everybody in our group fully vaccinated?
Yes.
I am.
Yeah.
So we as a group can meet without concern.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we certainly wouldn't approach the previous capacity limits of the room if it was just, the downstairs room, if it's just us or most of us or a few of us and others zooming in.
Well, right now with the emergency order drop, there is no capacity.
Right.
But limitations at this point, other than what we might self-impose.
Right.
So do we have the capacity to have Zoom show on the television screen that's down there so we can see people who might be zooming in?
Yeah, I mean, Peeker and I did that the first meeting we had, if I remember right, Peeker, didn't we? You and I were down in the basement and we had Zoom up on the TV.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we had to bring a laptop that,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ian, you've given this some thought. What would you recommend going forward?
I mean, I'm fine since we're all vaccinated. I'm fine with us being there. One of my concerns is a member of the public who wasn't vaccinated coming and attending our meeting. I have 2 young kids who can't get the vaccination, and so I wouldn't want to get it and pass it on to them because that's still a possibility, even if I am vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Or at least it's not 100% sure of what the potential is. So I don't know if we want to. I don't know how we limit that. Do we require people who want to attend a meeting in person to be vaccinated? That's one question. Or do we have it since we legally have to do that? Or do we just provide as hopefully as easy a transition where people can use Zoom and it's as good as it is as we're doing it now? And I guess the first thing we would do is just that I'd like to try is just have us bring our technology. I don't know if everyone, like I'm on a laptop. I know that Peeker's talked about being on an iPad. Is everyone able to bring their own device to a meeting in person, or are some people on desktop computers? And I'm speaking just for the select board members at the moment.
Well, I'm on desktop now, and before my iPad quit working,
okay.
So I was using my iPhone. So I mean, I got my phone.
Right. So that could work, and you'll have stuff in front of you. It would just be like if we wanted to have a camera on each person. That's so we can, as we talk, it would switch between us versus just having a single camera on all 5 of us or 6 of us or whatever.
But isn't there a problem with having multiple devices with the audio on and feedback?
No, because what we would do is we would just have one device that would have the audio, and that might be the TV, and so we could have that low, and if someone asks a question, or we could have it on mute when we're talking. If someone asks a question, let's say they're remote, they're zooming in, we could unmute the TV, have the audio come through. But everyone else's audio would be down. And I don't think the microphone, that would just pick up all of us. And I don't think that would be an issue. We'd want to do a little test. The only thing would be if we had the speaker up, we might hear ourselves as we talk. So we just mute. And if someone spoke, we would unmute, which is, I think we could easily accomplish. The other idea is to look at that OWL camera to see how that's going to work. And I don't know, like the tests I've seen, people are sitting like opposite each other or like at 90 degrees. We tend to sit at that single table, and I don't know if it's good enough. It might be easier just to pan between us, but I haven't used it, so I'm not sure. And it's $1,000, so
Middlebury does have one. I don't know if anybody's checked out or asked anybody at Middlebury what their experience has been with it. That might be one thing to do.
Jolie, you did that, didn't you?
Kathleen was out last week, so I didn't get a chance.
Okay. Yeah, follow up. But I guess, the first thing would just be, I'm fine with meeting downstairs. We can connect a computer to the large TV, and that will give us our people zooming in and be able to hear them and see them. And then if we each have a device, even if it's just in front of us, it's just on, even if you're not using it, it could just be sitting there. That would be streaming us so people could see us. So that would be the first thing. And I could definitely test it with a couple people, before we'd have our next meeting.
Let me just jump in for a minute. You were saying something about, you're not so concerned with us because, we're all vaccinated. I'm not sure we can actually ask people, but what we could do if we could say any public who comes in, they have to wear a mask.
Right.
And if you don't want to wear a mask, then you have to provide documentation that you're vaccinated. I mean, but that's your choice,
Yeah.
So, that might be, an option if anybody's uncomfortable with, more than just us being in there.
Right. It is a small space, and so it doesn't have as much airflow as upstairs in Holly Hall, though we'd have to set up the projector or some other device so we could see people via Zoom. It gets a little bit more complicated than downstairs.
There's echo and everything upstairs. There's all
that's true.
What's the possibility of Ian? Now I don't volunteer the chief's. He has control of the department over there, but I was stopped in last Tuesday night. They were on a Zoom meeting with the fire truck manufacturer. And it came in very nicely. And they all didn't have laptops in front of them. They were all speaking to the TV, and he was speaking back to them. What's the possibility of that? Using the big room upstairs, the training room, fire station.
It's not.
How are they? It's not available.
Didn't he say it wasn't available certain nights if we were thinking of it last meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
It could be worked out for sure, but now that the restrictions are lifted, will it be somewhat come up open? I don't know.
It was that they had stuff going on, Joel, not that.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And we have we have the same TV down in the meeting room.
Yeah, I don't know if they're zooming. I don't know how they did the camera. Perhaps they were only doing audio, which you could easily do. It's just having the camera on us.
How about we test it out? Now I know right after our road trip we got a beat with someone. But
so we can do a test then. After the road trip, we're going to have an executive session. We can text the attorney when we're ready to connect with him, and in the meantime, we can try different things and see how the connections work and the audio and
well, we can do it. We can actually do it with him.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, or he can give us feedback on whether he's getting a bunch of reverberation or whether it's nice and clear.
Yeah. That'll be a good test run.
At least we'll get our money.
Yeah, it'd be nice to test the owl. You know, Waitsfield, town of Waitsfield said it was very good, and they hadn't had any issues with it. Because I know that, you know, we need to find a solution for us, but I think the other boards are in the same issue. You know, the DRB is sort of meeting in person, but it's the way that it's set up. It's just, you just can't see very much. You know, 3 of the members are sitting behind at a desk or a table, and you can't really see them. And the microphone of a single laptop isn't really picking them up. So, but I know it's difficult to say, hey, everyone, bring in your own devices and I'll connect. So the OWL is probably the closest thing we have to being fairly easy to use that each committee or commission could use. Because it would be nice to keep the Zoom available. You know, I think not everyone that's on right now needs to be there in person. Like Tasha, would Tasha come to take the minutes? Like if Zoom was right there and she could hear everything fairly clearly, I don't know of any reason why she would want to come to the meeting versus being online if we could continue having a good quality connection.
So do either of these 2 towns record their meeting? I mean, is it something that
Middlebury does?
So if Middlebury records their meeting, if somebody had the ability to watch the recording, they could see how it works.
I actually tried that today.
And
about Middlebury, but I tried Waitsfield, and there weren't enough people in the room at the time to really get a sense of how the OWL responded to other people around the table. There was actually only just one person in the room, but everybody else was zoomed in.
So, I mean, I'm not opposed to spending the $1,000 out of the technology fund if somebody can view that and say it works. I mean, it's something that even if it doesn't work 100%, it's something that the other committees could use and
right.
How does that?
It seems to be.
Especially if other committee members don't have devices that they can use,
right?
That they can do a meeting.
What was your question, Tasha?
How does that work with like the public in the room as well? Does it turn to them as well, or does it just at the table?
It supposedly finds you if you start talking. It takes a couple seconds, but it'll adjust and find you. So it depends on how it's set up. I would think that it would be less for the public in the room, given that we usually the low attendance will probably continue even if we could still do the Zoom. And so it would just be for the board members themselves. And oftentimes in a lot of these meetings, there are very few members of the public there. And so it would just be focusing on people around the table.
I would just
and I don't know
if people, if like, 2 people started talking at the same time and kind of not arguing, but you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
How it would do that. So
it would probably struggle.
You would get really dizzy, Tasha. It would be like this.
His little head would spin right around.
Yeah. I mean, the other option is that we speak with Neat and they come back in the room with us with a camera, and you have an operator with a camera, which is how we've traditionally done it. And they could connect that to a Zoom account and be able to broadcast it out. It does add another person in the room then for hours at a time. But that's one of the easiest things. We also have the cost associated with that as well. I'd really want it for the OWL. It would be nice to be able to borrow one and test it, because I see us spending $1,000 and then it being complicated to use or doesn't quite do what it needs to do, or you need to have very specific things around a certain size table and positioning of people for it to work, and it maybe won't work for just our situation.
And so Ian, maybe you said that they had a good return policy.
They do, yes. So that's true. We could test it out and return it. And
maybe we could, I'm in Middlebury, Jolie's in Middlebury, maybe between the 3 of us, we could work with Middlebury and the 3 of us get there in just one day, take an hour and mess with it and see if we can, if they'll let us anyway. Because I'm not sure their offices are open yet.
Yeah, and I tried to find any Middlebury videos, any recordings that had used it. I can't seem to find any. I don't know if specific meetings they're doing, but I've looked. But
their select board meeting is still Zoom.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they'll start using it more now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone has a contact at Middlebury, just to be able to use that, or just be in the room with it and test it out would be good.
That's Jolie. He knows Kathleen.
Hold on, I'm going to try to. I got their meetings online.
Yeah, I just looked at the one from June 8th, and it's all Zoom.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the subject of masking, and as an alternative to that and wearing masks, that and since we're not likely to have standing room only attendance, at least for a while, that we just space the chairs 6 feet apart. Just the social distance thing.
But it's still, that's not going to work in our conference room. It's too small a room. It's just, and the air return in there, it won't do anything by having 6 feet apart. If they just sit there and breathe within 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever they have or potentially have is in the room. And I know it doesn't affect us. And it's maybe something where if the rest of you are more comfortable with doing that, that's fine. And I Zoom in. Because I have my concerns. It's probably given that we had one case in the state yesterday, there doesn't seem to be any real risk at this time, and especially in Addison County, which we've gone multiple days without any cases. So,
and actually, even though we're vaccinated, we can still get it.
You can,
right? Or it's just so unknown. Like we could get it, have lower potential of something serious happening, but I would worry then, can I pass that on? So it's still, there are lots of unknowns.
Yep.
Is it allowed to have you guys downstairs and then upstairs have like almost like what you guys do for town meeting and have a chair sit there?
Yeah.
That someone can sit down
adds even
and
more
talk.
Complication. Yeah.
That's a thought.
Is that complicated to ask folks to wear a mask if they haven't been vaccinated? Is that, well, I don't understand why we're not just staying with that protocol.
Jimmy's got a comment.
I'm sure Jimmy does. What do you got, Jim?
Actually, you only need 2 chairs, one for Bruce and one for me.
Well, I was going to ask that. Make sure that owl swings and gets that last chair right in the back.
Jim, would you come in person if we're in person, or would you continue to do Zoom if we offered that it was just the same as this?
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Either way is good. This is good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just wondering, some stores I know still are asking folks to wear masks, so it's not unusual. I mean, until we get to a point where it's not necessary any longer. Is there a reason that we can't ask folks if they're not inoculated to wear a mask?
Yeah.
I walked in.
It's not, but I think we're supposedly at that point. That's why he let the emergency order go,
I walked into
the state of emergency off.
Michelle, I walked into the Mobile in Rochester on Saturday morning without my mask. I had it in my pocket, and the guy goes, "You got to wear a mask, sir." And I said, "I thought the governor, if you were vaccinated, you didn't have to wear them." In public, he says the governor don't own the store. I do.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, each individual store can have their own requirements.
Right, and that's what I was saying. And I didn't know if that was different because it's a public space.
No, I mean, we can still say masks are required. I know, like the town of Waitsfield, they still have their mask order in place, or at least they did.
I mean, if we're going to have a sign on the door that says that for daily business, why wouldn't we have that for a meeting?
Well, I don't think we're doing it for daily business. I think Sharon said she was not requiring it.
But I thought she said the sign on the door was going to say if they had a vaccination, they didn't have to wear a mask.
Right, but she's not going to ask them if they're vaccinated. Right?
No. And I'm saying the same. I mean, why wouldn't we do the same thing for a meeting? Was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you 3 are going to look into the owl for us.
Yeah.
And if you think it's worthwhile, I think we need to, if you think it's worthwhile, I think we need to give the authorization to Valerie to be able to get one for our next meeting at this point. And I would say probably the funds come from the technology fund, if there's money enough there.
Oh, there's plenty at this point.
That would be my suggestion. If you feel it's worthwhile. And I mean, it's probably not going to be the best, but we need something for our other boards and commissions to be able to use as well. So if you're comfortable with it and you think it'll work, I think that's the route we need to go.
Yeah, I think whether it's the downstairs room or if people want to meet upstairs, it could be used for that kind of situation. You just place it in the center of a table, you'd sit around the table and it would hopefully move. But yeah, I'd really like to see it in person and just see how quick it is and see how dizzying it is as it switches. But yeah, we can, if Jill can reach out and hopefully set up maybe a meeting or just a stop in, that'd be great.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion that based on that meeting to authorize Valerie to get one.
Second.
I said I'd entertain a motion.
Oh.
You can still make a motion, can't you, Peeker?
I don't know.
Yes, you can. You
All
can
right,
still make a motion.
I will
I'll
make
second
motion.
Peeker's motion.
There you go. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
So
There,
are you-
Joel, the ball's in your court. Get it set up so we can test drive it.
So are you authorizing her to purchase one if they see that it's okay?
Works.
Like
Yes.
Right.
works?
If we think
Based on
after
the
our
trial run.
evaluation it works.
And,
Okay.
and if you go on www.townofmiddlebury.org,
Yeah.
and then follow right along. I'm on their meeting right now.
We finish our meeting.
Select board meeting. No, I can do two things at once.
Where am I going? Where am I going in that?
Just Google www.
Yeah, I got that. So town. Okay, so I got your select board members and contact information. Where are their meetings? That's what I was trying to find.
Boards, and say select board, then
Yeah.
meetings.
All right, I'll find it. I'll hunt around. Okay.
All right. Onward.
Yep.
Approval of March 29th, May 10th, May 24th. 2021 meeting minutes.
I've sent my comments in. Or corrections for change.
We only got May 29th or March 29th and May 24th, right?
No, May 10th was posted already online.
Oh, okay. So it's like, I didn't get that today. Yes, I sent in all my whatever changes I had as well. So I'll make a motion to approve March 29th, May 10th, and May 24th, 2021 with changes that were sent to Val.
Yeah, I got.
I had to poke you for a second.
Sorry.
Come on, somebody's got to do this. This is not your first meeting.
I was reading.
Already. So you seconded, Ian?
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I pasted that into chat. Their videos.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll try to find one that uses the owl.
Yeah, don't look at the last two.
No.
Authorize accounts payable and liquor licenses. Do we have the number?
Yep, it's $207,329.05, of which $85,394.93 is the portion that goes to the school, and $58,802.50 goes to VLCT for insurance premiums.
Make a motion to pay or whatever.
No, you don't need. You just got to go and find.
How many years have you been on this board, Joel?
I don't know why they have it on here. Why is it on the agenda?
So that the public knows what the number is.
Right.
I still think you have to approve.
You approve it by signing it.
Signing it.
Okay.
If you don't sign it, it's not approved. Select Board Roundtable, Joel.
Oh, we covered Beth, a letter. And Chris Acker called me on Robert Fuller's property, and I didn't realize till he told me there are 3 lines in one ditch going to 3 different houses. They haven't only built only the first one, and he didn't put a tracer wire in. And this goes back to he asked me. I guess I had called him or talked with him about he'd like him to dig it back up, and I talked to Valerie, and she said we don't have authorization to dig that up, so he's on his own without digging it up again. So, but as Chris said, that got approved, that housing development, by the Planning Commission or DRB or whatever, whoever approved it.
Planning Commission.
The board didn't approve that development. He goes by the prints on the development or what was approved, and he says nothing where on his prints said, with their signature on the bottom, said there was a tracer wire in the ditch. So I think we need to do a little better. We're going to have the water ordinances, but we need to maybe work with the Planning Commission. I was going to bring that up to Kevin on when they're approving things that eventually got approved by this board.
Mm-hmm.
They got to know what we want.
So it's not the Planning Commission anymore; it's the DRB.
But anyway, if we want a tracer wire in there, it's got to say it in the architects or the drawings. He says, I didn't put it in because there's no drawings.
Well, it doesn't now because it's in the ordinance, and if he doesn't follow the ordinance, he will be digging it back up. It's that simple.
And then up there, speaking of Robert Fuller, is Eric? Eric, you still on or no? No.
Yeah, he is. He's waving to you.
He's waving.
Eric, check that. That great big cross culvert from those 2 drains? There's no silt fence there, nothing. And that's washing out all the way down to that other property to the north, that right away to the north. And it's some our fault and some Robert Fuller's fault, or whoever did the digging there. I mean, that needs to be seeded there and grassed and seeded in a silt fence or something. When that big 24-inch culvert lets go off from North Street, there's a lot of water goes down through that ditch.
There by Billy's?
Yeah, just south of Billy's there, by the fire hydrant. Take a look at it. You'll see where the culvert's washed, plus from the ditch going from the curb stops. And then Valerie, just a quick question. I told you that Lucy couldn't drive next Monday.
Right.
And what did we pay her? If you could just text me that tomorrow, you don't need to tell me tonight, so I can ask any other Betcha driver if they'd like to drive. If not, I've got to drive.
Anything else?
And Valerie, possibly I may not be able to make it if I can get a driver due to a family thing next Monday. Okay? But I'll let you know. That's it, Peter. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you crap because you're the one that really wanted this annual trip.
That's right.
and selected the date.
Well, I didn't select the date now from Monday that I have to do. So, sorry.
Michelle.
I'm good.
Darla.
The only thing I have this evening is Patty Heatherly stopped by to talk to me about the equity and inclusion forum. I'm going to call it a forum for now. So she's very eager for us to have a public discussion about that. I'm not sure where that might fit on a future agenda. But I know that Middlebury crafted their own after one that was very similar to the one that the state adopted. Brandon has adopted it. Rutland has adopted it. And there are several other towns throughout the state. And I think it would be really good for us to look at the language there and see what's possible.
I talked about this on Friday and told her that we didn't have room on tonight's agenda for it and that we were going to aim for the next agenda. And I did track down copies of the statements that some of the other towns have adopted.
Okay, I have them as well. Elle has been, one of the original authors has been contacting me recently. So I have some information too that I can.
What's it about? Sorry, I didn't catch
It's
that.
an equity and inclusion statement that the town might make or might consider rather.
I'm reading Middlebury's right now, select board statement on equity and justice.
They were very, they took it and ran with it. Middlebury did. They really crafted it to their own vision.
I think they had a committee also putting a lot of effort into it.
I think so.
Anything else, Darla?
That's it.
I guess, Valerie, back to, you said she talked with you on Friday?
I just passed her on the street.
Well, whether we had a full agenda or not, our policy is if it doesn't get in by Thursday, right?
Now she sent it to everybody, right? I think
I think so. The email came earlier in the week.
Yeah, she sent us an email.
I that's how the agenda fills up. You can't say no, Valerie. I'm just yeah.
You know. I say no.
And that's why it's 10:30 or 10:15.
Ian.
So this is for Bristol Core, and I had some questions regarding the grant. So we're going to get that grant, which means picnic benches in the park, 4 of them, 6 benches on Main Street, some new garbage cans and recycling cans for the park, hopefully, as well as a couple on Main Street, on bike racks. When we order this stuff, it's going to come freight on a big truck. Where do I deliver it to? It's going to be essentially the town's infrastructure.
Your house.
Yeah.
No, it's for the town. That's what this grant was for. So yeah, what's the easiest? Like, it's going to require assembly. I'm going to try to get a bunch of volunteers together to bolt things together and put them where they need to be. It's kind of busy over at the Public Works building, but I don't know if anyone has any other suggestions. One person thought maybe over at Bristol Works by the police station, police department building, just because it's a more open space and we could maybe then assemble stuff and get it moved over in a truck and things like that. But does anyone have any other suggestions for us?
How about behind Howden Hall?
That's what I was going to say. How much assembly does it require, Ian?
Quite a bit. Well, it's, bolting things together. It's not too much, but they won't come. It'll come like flat packed as much as it can, I think.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you do it over by the police station, that's an awful long way to truck it, because then you're going to have trucks or something to get it over there.
Right. Yeah. Howden Hall, I guess you can get behind a little bit. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got the whole set. You have the whole east side of it. You can get through.
I'm probably going to.
It would just be I guess a large truck backing in there to unload everything.
Well, how are they gonna unload them from the truck? I mean, because my guess is they're not gonna be able to back in there, but they could be on like over by the park and then have to bring them over.
You can request liftgate, which might be an additional cost, which maybe is what we have to do.
I mean, we're talking 18-wheeler, right? Or are we talking just like a box truck?
No, probably a big guy, because the benches are 8 feet long, so it definitely, all of that will add up to a fairly hefty or a number of pallets, I would think.
Yeah, they're all going to be in pallets.
Okay. And there's not much room over where you are, Eric, right? I just worry because it's going to be super busy over there to drop stuff off and then move it and then assemble.
Well, if you're doing Howden Hall, they could probably park in front of the Merchants Bank, because there's those parking spaces there. I mean, the only other thing you could possibly do is ask Martin's if they allow us to use their forklift.
Oh yeah,
and one of their operators, and have them take them out and drive them out back.
Eric, how much room do you have in the salt shed?
If I pull a trailer out, got probably third of the salt shed.
You have forks for your John Deere?
You got forks for both.
I mean, he's not going to assemble us all in one day, a group of volunteers.
Right.
No.
So
no, that's another thing. Like, I thought, can it be delivered to like on the park? But then you're taking up space, and that didn't seem like a good idea.
They could. I'd move it around in the salt shed down there, depending on how many pallets it's on.
Right.
You could possibly put it in the salt shed and just work on it that way. When you get something built, take it down.
Yeah, because we have a pickup that we can get, or I've got my trailer I can put stuff in. It's not as quick as like a bigger truck, but we have that ability. So they would back in at the top. You'd fork it off and then bring it down. Is that right?
No, I'd have them drive down into the pit.
Oh, they can do that. Anything wheeler can go down.
Plenty of room down there for them to turn around.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to talk to them. I talked to the company I'm getting. It's all one company that everything's being ordered from. What's the address?
80 Pine Street.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
I am good. Administrators report.
I have nothing to add to my written report.
Other business, correspondence reports received. Boy, silence. Do we have an executive session?
Well, given the hour, I'll leave that up to the select board and Bruce. Bruce does want to meet with the board. It can either be tonight if you have the stamina, or tomorrow, the next Monday after the road trip. And Bruce can either be physically present or Zoom in for his topic.
How much time does Bruce need tonight? Because I'm tempted to say, let's just get it done tonight, because we don't know how long next week might take.
Yeah, 10 minutes tops.
I'm fine with doing it tonight.
I'm going to set my watch and do the timer.
Yeah. So is that personnel matters?
Yes, it would.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to enter an executive session to discuss personal matters per 1 BSA section 313A3, and we invite Bruce to entertain with us.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. We are in executive session.
Good night, Jimmy.
Good night,
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Jim.
Night, Eric.
Good night, Sasha.